Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 4 of What If Ash Was Betrayed and Got a Harem. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content, and also go and support the author, link in description. Awakening with a loud gasp, Ash quickly sat up from the position under the tree he lay. Sweat poured down his face as he realized he had another unexplainable nightmare. In the dream, he was trapped in a clear bubble that he could not break out of, no matter how hard he tried to do so. Oh, how he wished that he was able to break that bubble. Ash was forced to watch as everything and everyone around was under attack, just like his nightmare about Pallet Town. Buildings were toppled, ground crumbled, Pokemon and people attacked and even killed without mercy. The culprit of the attacks was an army of Pokemon with powerful feeling of malice and hatred flowing from them. They attacked with no remorse, no hesitation, and extreme prejudice. They were everywhere and had immense power that it was unreal. Ash had no choice, but to watch as everything and everyone he cared for perished as they tried to fight back. Pallet Town, Lumious City, and the Indigo Plateau were among the burning places. Already at his breaking point, the dream had only gotten worse when it showed his precious people among the attacks. He watched as Suzaku, Tai, Mia, and Zion fell to the relentless assaults of the Pokemon. He watched as Cynthia and Annabelle bled out in pain from the constant attacks. He felt terror creep into his being as the scene changed on him. Ash bore witness to his sister being attacked non-stop by the army of Pokemon. No matter how hard she tried to fight or run away, she could not protect herself from the onslaught of attacks. Ash tried relentlessly to break from the bubble he was trapped in, but to no avail. Ash felt his dread and pain clench his heart tighter as the bubble shifted to a different direction, just in time to catch someone else fighting for her life. Delia Ketchum was stabbed through her chest. Ash could no longer hold it in, his eyes poured down the tears as everything around him burned. Through his hazy vision, Ash glared at the one that stabbed his mother. Only to see, not only the normal cloaked man, but a dark figure with a glowing blue eye and another figure that he couldn't recognize. After shaking his head from the gruesome memory, Ash got off the tree he was leaning against. Looking up, Ash saw that it was still night due to the bright moon that lit up the slightly cloudy sky. Ash quickly tore his gaze from the sky and looked around to only sigh in relief. He saw all of his Pokemon and elites sleeping peacefully. Ash looked to his left and his gaze froze on the sleeping form of Delia, who had her head laying on a curled-up Ninetales. The image of her being impaled flashed through his mind and his heart clenched in sorrow. Ash couldn't get the image out of his head. He felt tears form in his eyes before he blinked them away and quickly got up. Maybe a walk will help clear my mind, Ash said softly as he walked away from the clearing. He was completely unaware of the pair of eyes that were watching him. Ash walked through the forest, his mind slowly calming down due to the peacefulness of the surrounding nature, the cool night air flowing through his hair. He listened to the sounds of the various night-active Pokemon as they sung a nameless tune. Ash closed his eyes as he stood alone in the forest and let his aura flow through nature. Aura users can feel everything around them, not just living. He could use his aura to feel the land's pain or joy, how it feels. Closing his eyes, Ash instantly felt his rapid heartbeat slow down and his emotions cooling down to match the cool night air. His shoulders slumped to a relaxed pose. Ash truly felt at peace as he became one with the forest. He felt no more fear, no anger, no stress, nothing at all. All he felt was pure peace as he felt the various forms of life in the forest. His eyes snapped open though a few moments later as he felt a familiar aura make itself known among the shadows of a tree behind him. Sighing at the aura, he called out to his apparent follower without turning around or breaking his connection with the forest. You can come out now, I know that you're there. The person walked out slowly from behind the tree as the follower was revealed to be his mother, Delia. The young mother had awoken as she saw Ash jump awake from what she could see, from the signs and sweat, to be a very bad nightmare. She saw him look around the clearing, fear and relief written on his face. He even had that expression on his face as he looked at her. Her heart clenched in worry for her son as she saw him leave the clearing and followed after him. Ash needed someone to comfort him, whether he realized it or not. Delia stared at Ash's back, unsure of how to approach him with the matter. This Ash, while still the baby she loved more than anything, was very different from the one she raised. Comforting him will be vastly different from how it used to be. Ash felt the turmoil going through his mother's body, the concern she felt that was obviously towards him. Ash could feel that she wanted to help him. Ash sighed as he looked towards the night sky and slowly sat on the grass. He gently pat the spot next to him, feeling that he should get something off his chest involving her. Delia, understanding the gesture, sat next to her son, squealing in slight joy at being so close to her son. She looked at her child and was surprised to see his face was actually calm. He looks genuinely at peace right now. Looking at his mother from the corner of his eye, Ash took note of the surprised look on her face, along with the small smile on her face. Turning his gaze back to the sky, he finally spoke. I really do love the nighttime, Delia. At first I never really bothered since I always slept through it, never really giving it the chance to truly enjoy it. After my travels though, the night has become so much more incredible than I could ever have thought. Delia nodded her head at his words, knowing that one's tastes may change through time. But why was he bringing this up all of a sudden? Turning his head towards Delia, Ash had a serious and calm expression on his face. The way I have been acting lately is not at all how I have been trained these years. Just like my taste and view on the night has changed, how I need to handle my abilities and emotions on this whole situation changed throughout my travels. Don't get it wrong, I don't like nor do I trust you at this very moment either. At his words, Delia felt something stab at her heart repeatedly at the end of his sentence and admittance. Even now, Ash continued. I want to cause you untold amounts of pain so I can finally satisfy this dark feeling that plagues me. I even gave into it already and tried to do something that made me absolutely sick. For that, Delia, I am truly sorry. As Ash spoke, his calm demeanor fell slightly as a more sad expression grew on his face. Ash, sweetie, please don't apologize, Delia said tenderly, even more heartbroken at seeing her son's sad face. I deserve it for what happened. I'm so sorry, honey. I never meant to this to you. No longer able to control her sadness, the young mother burst into tears as she continued. I never wanted to cause you such pain, honey, honest. When you ran away, I knew that I hurt you like no other and lost my heart. You are my baby, my son and the one I love most in this world. Ash looked at his mother as she cried and apologized to him. He was honestly feeling very conflicted at the moment, not expecting a reaction like this from his words. He apologized to her, not because of her being his mother or because he needed her forgiveness, even if a small part of him really wanted it. He only apologized because he felt bad for attacking her due to not being able to control his own rage. Now though, he couldn't help but to feel his heart warm up after hearing her apologize yet break at seeing her tears. As the warm feeling grew, that dark feeling made itself known once more as it felt like it fought for dominance and tried to make him give in to his more darker intentions. Looking down at his shoes, Ash ignored the feeling as he focused his aura sense towards Delia and felt out her emotions. As he did so, he felt nothing but sorrow and love come from her, sorrow for her actions towards him and love for him even after everything that has happened. Ash looked down, surprised at what he felt. His mother still loved him, she really truly loved him. After everything that has happened since they ran into each other, his hate towards her, his attack on her. But, if she loved him so much as she claims, then why? Why turn her back on him when he needed her? Why would she abandon him? As Ash's thoughts raced, he didn't take notice of the dark feeling try to influence his heart and thoughts with more vigor than before and succeeding. He didn't notice the warm, happy feeling he felt a moment ago begin to die from his heart. His aura began to race quickly and darken slowly as his anger rose more and more. His hand clenched in frustration as his eyes began to glow slightly from the aura that traveled through his body. Delia, her eyes blurry from the tears spilling out, could no longer hold herself back and rushed at Ash, engulfing him in a tight embrace. She kept muttering, "I'm sorry," over and over as she held her son as tight as she possibly could. She had not noticed that Ash's clenched hands snapped open and straightened out. His hands were engulfed in a dark green glow, slightly blending in with the night, signifying the use of the grass-type move leaf blade. Before Ash could make use of the blade, the wet spot on his shirt from his mother's tears caused him to pause and look down at her. The light of the moon came out from the clouds above and illuminated her perfectly so Ash was able to see her crying. Her crying face caused a memory to flashback through his mind back when he was still young, around 8 years old. He remembered when his mother doted over him when he got sick from being poisoned by a rampaging Vileplume when he visited the Oaks Ranch. He ran out when no one was looking and began playing with as many of the Pokémon in the back as he could. Eventually though, Ash kicked a rock that hit and angered a bunch of sleeping Beedrill that swarmed after him. Some of the Beedrills were held back by the Pokémon he was playing with, but some had slipped by them. Ash continued to run as he was pursued by 3 of the Beedrill that began firing pin missiles at the young 8-year-old. He had dived into some bushes and avoided the attacks. The Beedrills continued on their paths, not having seen him hide among the bushes. Ash was far from safe though as the pin missiles had hit a resting Vileplume that only served to anger the poisoned grass type who released a poison powder that completely covered the young Ash. Ash, coughing and getting sick from the powerful poison, fell out of the bushes in an attempt to run away. Vileplume, still angry to be awoken, began stalking towards Ash while preparing to attack him once more. Before the poisoned grass type could proceed any further though, it was pelted by several rocks that got its attention. Looking towards the culprit, Ash saw that his mother who threw them as she ran towards them. Ash, unable to hold himself, passed out from the poison in his system. He had awoken to find himself in his bed with his mother laying by his bedside with warm and cold water buckets beside her, her hand gripping his tightly and tears staining her face. She had taken care of him as best as she could, due to there being a lack of hospitals in the town. A doctor did come by and tell her what needed to be done and she followed his orders to the letter. When she saw him awake, Delia gushed over him and kept him warm and protected for 2 whole days with barely any sleep. Now that he finished reliving the memory, the dark feeling in Ash's heart shrunk once more as the warmth grew stronger. The dark green leaf blade turned to its normal light green glow as it dispersed while the young champion looked at his crying mother. Feeling the dark presence try to return with intensity as his mother held him, Ash grabbed her shoulders and gently pushed her away. Looking into her teary eyes, he couldn't help relive the memory of his mom taking care of him that day and remembering the tear-stained face she had back then. Why? Ash asked softly. Delia gave Ash a curious glance as she wiped the tears from her face. Why did you do that to me? If you loved me like you say you do, like you have shown me many times before and still claim you do now, then why betray my trust in you? Why did you try to destroy my dream? Delia flinched at his words as he yelled out at her. She looked to Ash and saw the hurt, the pain, the rage, the sadness, all of the mixed-up emotions that she helped cause him. She truly ashamed of herself for making her son go through so much. Ash, I never meant to hurt you, sweetheart, she said as fresh tears began to fall. It wasn't that I didn't believe in you anymore, I was worried about you. Her words caused Ash's eyes to widen. She was worried, about what? Ash, you had gone to several leagues and had done well in each one, but in the end you lost them, which ended in you becoming upset. After seeing you go off on a whole new adventure without a second though, when you hear of a new challenge or region, I began to worry that you didn't have a backup plan for you fall back on just in case. If I passed away early, how could you provide for yourself and your Pokémon since you didn't have any steady income? It's with that in mind that I sent in a job application to the prestigious Poke Tech school where you would be a teacher for the young trainers there, which they replied that they would be honored to have a trainer with your skill as one of their instructors. So you decided to plan things ahead of time, Ash said in a monotone voice as he thought over what he just learned. He was honestly unsure on how to take this new information from his mother. In her defense, she did all she did in an attempt to help him with his future, to keep him from hitting a dead end. On the other hand though, it showed that she was beginning to lose faith in him. She no longer saw him as someone who was progressing well with his dream, even if at a sedate pace. She also no longer believed in his Pokémon, who all worked very hard for him, and that had angered him immensely. He locked his gaze upon Delia, ready to yell at her only to pause as he looked at her. He felt that he couldn't yell at her, that all his anger that he felt had vanished as he gazed into her teary, hazel-colored eyes, a color that matched Ash's own. The tears on her face, the shame that was easily shown, the love that was almost impossible to hide as she gazed at him. Turning his back to her so he could get his thought together, Ash took a deep breath before releasing it in a heavy sigh. May I have some time alone? Ash asked her, his calm voice hiding the turmoil in his heart. He had yet to realize that talking with his mother had made him completely forget about his latest nightmare. Delia nodded her head as she began to walk away back towards the camp that they rested in. She paused for a few seconds before deciding to leave one last message for her child. For what it's worth to you, Ash, she began without turning around. I love you, honey. I have always loved you and still will always love you. After saying her piece said, Delia walked off. Feeling her leaving, Ash fell to the soft grass as he stared at the starry night sky. Slowly, he began to chuckle, unsure if it's amusement or annoyance. She just had to get the last words, and those words just had to be it, he said in between his laughter. He sighed as he calmed down. It was so much easier when I just hated her and wanted her gone. Just what should I do now? His only answer was the constant noise around him as he slowly drifted to sleep, feeling oddly at peace. Stretching, Ash awoke to the bright rays of the sun hitting his face. Looking up at sky as he shaded his face, he took note of how cheery and blue the sky was today, not a cloud to be found. Standing up, Ash could not feel the cold feeling in heart, as if it was hiding away due it being afraid and waiting for a chance to return. Ash shrugged, not really caring since he actually felt great this morning. Like he was a brand new person. His aura even flowed more freely, like any blockage was gone and it nothing impeding its path. Ash smiled brightly as he turned his head slightly. So Lucario, how long are you just going to stand there and stare at me? He asked in amusement. His friend walked out from a nearby tree and made his way to partner's side. I was worried when no one saw you this morning, he said. We thought you left due to your former mother being in the same area, so we went looking for you. Ash grinned at his partner, surprising him at his happy attitude that he hasn't really shown these past few days. I can see why you guys would come to that conclusion, my friend, he replied as he chuckled. But as you can see, I am doing okay. In fact, I'm doing better than okay. I feel like a whole new me, and new me says it's time to continue our win streak at the tournament. Ash looked toward his friend, his determined gaze causing Lucario to grin in anticipation. Let's win this thing, Lucario, and take down that shadow while we're at it. Lucario's grin only stretched further and nodded at his trainer. Ash's friendly aura has returned at full force and it was amazing to see again. This feeling is what made him join Ash in the first place. He didn't know what happened, but he was just glad that it did. Ash Ketchum was back. The duo silently made their way back to the others so Ash could collect the Pokemon he was going to carry with him today. Things were going to be tougher now, so Ash had to take the battles more seriously due to him holding back a lot in this tournament. But first Ash had a loose end that he needed to tie up for now. Delia Ketchum, the woman that betrayed his trust and broke him painfully. The same woman who was currently brushing the healthy fur of her Ninetales, who was purring pure bliss. Ash could sense the strong bond between the two, actually causing him to smile as he was happy to feel such love between people and Pokemon. It was the type of bond that an Aura Guardian like him lived to see. Complete harmony and cooperation. Delia. Ash called out to her, getting her to pause in her brushing and give him her attention. Worry, love, and desperation were clear in her eyes. I want to thank you for last night, for keeping me company. Our talk helped me to calm down, which was more helpful than you know. I'll make it up to you. His words surprised everyone that was present, not expecting him to act so civil with Delia. This made them all wonder what had happened between the two trainers while they all slept. Delia's eyes widened in shock, not expecting her son to address her. Her eyes shone in joy at the thought of actually not only helping her son, but to have him talk to her with joy and not pure anger like before. It was a dream come true for her. She smiled so bright and warmly that it made the sun seem bland and cold in comparison. Ash gave her a small, friendly smile before he addressed everyone. Today, the break period ends, the tournament will continue. So if you haven't already, you should go check to see who your opponent is going to be. As for me, my opponent won his last few matches with only one Pokemon. The match has been raised to 3 versus 3, so pick carefully. Good luck everyone and may the aura guide you all to victory. His gaze turned slightly towards Delia, all of you. He made his way to his Pokemon as he made his choices. His words surprised them all once more, since he said that to Delia too and not just them. Telling someone those words wasn't just a way to say good luck, especially from an aura guardian, as it also meant that the person will be watching over you. Ash only ever said it others if he meant it, which were usually his friends or Pokemon. Alex stood there, happy at her brother's seeming change of heart. She was happy that her brother gave a genuine smile instead of a forced one that held hidden hatred or anger, though she was curious what Ash and Delia spoke about to cause such a complete change of action and emotions. She turned from her brother, who had made another choice of what Pokemon to use, and changed towards Delia. Seeing the giant smile on the face of normally distraught mother, Alex decided not to question it and just be happy for them. If Ash is happy then so am I, she thought. Now let's not get left behind in this tournament. After making his final choice, Ash looked at Lucario who leaned on a nearby tree. Pikachu, I know you may feel left out at the current moment, but I will be using you soon buddy. I promise, Ash said through his aura towards the electric mouse Pokemon who gave his best friend a thumbs up before running off to join the other Pokemon that were relaxing under the shade of a tree. So what's going on between you and Delia? Lucario asked Ash, connecting their aura together. Will she be one of us from now? Ash shook his head as he gazed at the aura Pokemon. Right now, I'm not going to be hostile towards her, he replied using the same methods. Delia and I spoke last night and I got some answers that I needed to have. It even helped remind me of a few things that I seem to have forgotten after all these years. Is she a part of our little group? I don't have answer for that yet my friend. Do you trust her Ash? Lucario asked seriously. He needed to know how Ash felt because this was a huge decision to make. To let the person that hurt you badly in your life again, it could end badly so it shouldn't be rushed. He was not going to allow his friend to be hurt again. No I do not Lucario, Ash replied without hesitation and yet no anger either. While I may have decided to be more lenient involving her from now on, it doesn't I am going to let her in my heart so soon. I am merely giving her the benefit of the doubt, not another chance to hurt me again. I'm still not completely comfortable with her around and I don't think I will be comfortable with her anytime soon. Ash looked to the sky once more, loving how peaceful it looked as the warmth in his heart felt as clear as the sky was. He looked back to Lucario as he smiled. I'm just protecting her as a guardian and as my job entails. What happens from now on, will depend on her actions. Lucario nodded as he understood Ash's choice. He shall be more civil with her, but not let her around his heart. He will be prepared to throw her heart coldly if she crossed any bounds that she shouldn't and do it without any hesitation. If she shows that she really is trustworthy then he will continue to defend her and care for her. He won't be calling her mom anytime soon as she will just be another person to him at this moment in time. He agreed and was happy his friend wasn't going to be some naive fool and forgive her so easily. Civility and forgiveness were two very different things. Ash smirked as he raised his Pokeball at Lucario. Let's go win us a tournament, he said as he returned the steel fighting type into the confines of the sphere. At Stadium A. The excited roar of the audience was all that could be heard as they just watched another action-packed battle just finish. The battle was a close one, but Mike had come out the victor with Lucario, who was his remaining. The said trainer cheered as he ran off the field in joy, Lucario right behind him. Ash smiled warmly as Mike and Lucario ran past him in the tunnel, too happy to notice. Good for you Mike, you deserved that victory. You all worked hard for it. He was knocked from his thoughts as he heard the announcer call his name and his opponent's, a man by the name of Zaniel. As he walked out, he saw that the man towered over him, standing at a solid 7 feet 0. He had a midnight black hair that was slicked back. His dark green eyes were piercing as they stared at him. He wore brown slacks that were tucked into his dark brown boots. Sunglasses hung around his neck by a long strap. He had bulging muscles, showing he was very fit as well. The man grinned a slightly savage grin, like a predator that found the perfect prey that would make its hunt more interesting. The two trainers continued to stare at each other, just barely hearing the judge telling them to choose their Pokemon. Opening an Ultra Ball, he gave a grunt before tossing it. Let's crush him Meganium. In a flash of white, the final grass evolution starter of the Johto region appeared tall and proud. It shook the flower around its neck slightly before roaring in strength. Ash's eyebrows rose in slightly surprise at the strong aura the grass type gave off. This is definitely a very strong Pokemon, he thought as he opened another Pokeball. Well, one strong Pokemon deserves another. Let's go, Pidgeot. In a flash, the second Pokemon Ash ever caught appeared on the field. In a show of control and grace, the flying, normal-type nose-dived to the ground before curving upwards at the last second, landing softly in front of its trainer. She gazed at Ash before turning back to her opponent and released a challenging screech. Let the battle begin. Meganium, let's start this off, use sweet scent. Zaniel commanded as a sweet scent wafted through the air, getting the entire audience to smile at the smell. The smell hit both Ash's and Pidgeot's sense of smell, causing them to smirk. They knew the smell was affecting Pidgeot, no doubt about it. They were smirking at how strong the smell was, meaning that Meganium was quite strong. Stronger the smell, the stronger the Pokemon. Having enough of the smell, Pidgeot blew it all away with 3 mighty flaps of her powerful wings. The bird Pokemon took off towards the sky at high speeds, causing a small shockwave when she pushed off the ground. Deciding to battle like a champion, due to how strong the Meganium seemed to be, Ash's grin turned to a more serious one as he looked at the grass type. Pidgeot, use Air Slash. Pidgeot quickly gathered the wind currents around her wings before sending a powerful slash at her target. The attack caused both Zaniel and Meganium to widen their eyes at how fast the attack was. Due to the shock, Meganium was unable to dodge and was hit by the powerful flying-type attack. The collision caused a cloud of debris to pick up as the grass-type skidded back, gritting his teeth before smirking at Pidgeot. My Meganium won't go down by such a small breeze, catch him. Zaniel spoke out, confidence saturating his voice. Meganium has trained to be able to take hits like that and still stand. Go Meganium, use Vine Whip on Pidgeot. Several green vines shot out from Meganium, rushing at Pidgeot who merely narrowed her eyes as she awaited her trainer's next command. She wasn't disappointed as she heard Ash command her to dodge and rush at her opponent. Screeching out, Pidgeot dove into the onslaught of vines with blurring speeds. Grace rarely ever seen, Pidgeot dodged vine after vine, twisting her body or backing up before rushing in a different direction. Close-range Air Slash, Ash commanded as his eyes gained a calculating glint. Pidgeot's wings were surrounded by howling winds once more before in another burst of speed, appeared in front of her opponent. In a strong flap, she slammed her attack into Meganium, who was once more pushed by the explosive collision. Not letting the attack slow him down, Meganium quickly sent the vines on Pidgeot and wrapped it around her. Pidgeot was too surprised by the action, the vines trapped the bird Pokemon. Good job Meganium, Zaniel praised as a grin stretched across his face. Now use sweet scent once more at full blast. The same sweet-smelling gas burst from Meganium's flower as the smell covered the stadium again and more specifically, Pidgeot. Pidgeot did its best to not show signs of being bothered by the attack, but it was difficult due to being so close to the source. Pidgeot continued to struggle to get free from the vines, but to no avail. The bird Pokemon's struggles began to slow as a calming feeling spread throughout her body. Pidgeot, calm down and focus the best you can at Meganium, a voice that she instantly recognized as Ash's echoed through her mind. She took a deep breath, inhaling a bit more of the sweet scent, her eyes focusing completely on the grinning Meganium. Good, now hit him with a swagger. Releasing a sigh at Meganium, the attack took full effect. While the risk of the move was that Meganium's attack stat will gain a boost, the benefit of the grass becoming confused was worth it. Plus it had one more additional affect that Ash was going for. The vines around Pidgeot loosened and retracted, freeing Pidgeot from their constriction. This was also followed by the sweet scent dissipating from Meganium's flower. Looking at her opponent, Pidgeot smirked at the dazed and dizzy state the grass Pokemon was in. Ash smirked as well and not one to waste an opportunity, yelled out for Pidgeot to use Heat Wave. Flapping her wings, heated winds washed over the confused Meganium. Due to being so dazed, Meganium could not brace itself and was easily sent flying from the attack, leaving faint scorch marks on the floor. Follow it up with your return, Ash commanded as Pidgeot raced at Meganium with blurring speeds. Meganium, get out of the way. Zaniel commanded, only for Meganium to stumble forward, still dazed due to the confusion. Due to it still being unable to react, Pidgeot rammed into Meganium and began to assault him. She pecked him, kicked him, slapped him with her wings, and even slammed her body into him. Ash smirked slightly as he watched Pidgeot continue her attack in an almost rhythmic grace. Most don't see that the attacks such as Frustration and Return have almost limitless power and potential, though I honestly prefer Return over the other, Ash thought as he watched Pidgeot slam Meganium into the ground. For Return, the stronger the bond between trainer and Pokémon, he smiled as Pidgeot returned to her position in front of him, the stronger the attack can become. Pidgeot cawed at full power, enjoying the chance to help Ash win battles again. She had missed him as she protected all the Pidgeys and Pidgeotos from her rival Fearow and his Spearows. She was beginning to think he forgot about her, but he one day appeared again and helped them finally put an end to the territory battle between the two sides by actually capturing the Fearow leader. The threat now gone, she was able to join her master's side once more and she couldn't have been happier. The battles, the training were all tough, but so rewarding. It was all worth it and she has only gotten stronger as time went on. She looked at the downed Meganium, not believing the battle to be over. That Meganium is too tough to be downed by that, she thought as she was proven correct when said grass stood up again. Meganium was now glaring at the bird Pokémon, its confusion status having worn off. Meganium, let's use Vine Whip, Zaniel pointed at his opponent's Pidgeot. Several vines rushed towards Pidgeot, who took to the air once more and was doing her best to dodge each strike, which was much more difficult due to having the effects of two sweet scents clouding her mind. Use Heat Wave, Ash yelled out as Pidgeot flew further up and flapped her wings. The powerful flaps released the intense once more towards Meganium, who grounded himself so he wouldn't be thrown back. Stop that, Pidgeot, with your Vine Whip. Meganium pulled his strength together and shot out his vines. Pidgeot cancelled its attack and attempted to dodge the attack, but she was having trouble. The vines finally wrapped around the bird Pokémon and slammed her into the ground. Good job, Meganium, now it's time to reel her in. Meganium snapped his neck to the side and pulled the struggling Pidgeot towards him. Being unable to ground herself to resist it, Pidgeot was sent hurtling towards the awaiting starter Pokémon. Use Dragon Tail. Meganium's tail glowed a bright blue as the energy that encased it grew in length and began to gain what looked like dragon scales. When Pidgeot was close enough, Meganium twisted his body around and slammed the tail into the bird Pokémon, causing her to cry out in pain. A bright red glow enveloped Pidgeot before she was suddenly returned back into her Pokeball. Damn, didn't expect his Meganium to know how to use Dragon Tail, Ash thought mentally. An attack that not only damages the target, but sends them back to their Pokeball. Plus there's no rule against its use, I personally can't return my Pokemon. Grabbing a new Pokeball, Ash tossed it up. Let's go Heracross. The bug-fighting type Pokemon burst onto the field in a flash of light, a big friendly smile on its face. He looked to Ash before returning his gaze to Meganium, determination shining in his powerful eyes. Heracross, use Brick Break. Ash commanded. Heracross nodded as he gained a serious look on his face as he charged at his opponent in a surprising burst of speed. Too fast for the grass type to react, Heracross slammed his glowing fist into Meganium's head, causing him to yell in pain. Sliding across the ground, Meganium grounded his feet to stop himself from sliding, only to be surprised to find Heracross in his face. Use Aerial Ace and hit him hard. In a blue blur, Heracross slammed into his grass opponent once more with a super effective flying type strike, causing Meganium to grit his teeth so not to yell from the pain he was feeling. Zaniel gritted his teeth at how easily Ash turned the battle around without any issue. Meganium, slow Heracross's movements with your sweet scent. Meganium released the strong scent throughout the stadium. The result ended up as unexpected when the scent reached Heracross. Instead of being stunned by the scent like he expected, Heracross gained a joyful face as he ran at Meganium and knocked him down. Heracross laid on top of Meganium and looked as if he was trying to find where the smell was coming from. Ash chuckled as he looked at the dazed face of his Heracross and the confused look of Zaniel. Heracross adores nectar, which are very sweet smelling. Mine takes the obsession a step further, as you can see. The sweet scent won't bother him much. Zaniel was genuinely surprised by the Kalos champion's words, since he wasn't expecting a Pokemon to be able to ignore the effects of sweet scent, and it was just a natural immunity and not some ability. Heracross, back up and give Meganium enough room to stand please, Ash said to the single-horned Pokemon who was trying to find the nectar that sweet smell was coming from. Ash didn't want to take the opening that the sweet food-obsessed bug-fighting type gave him because it would feel unfair to him. These battles are for the Pokemon to get stronger and showcase the strength they gained through their hard work alongside their trainers. Taking advantage of a crazed food obsession, not exactly a show of strength. Hearing his trainer's voice snapped Heracross out of his daze as he quickly got off the still confused grass type. He flew over to Ash as he scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Sorry about that Ash, Heracross said to his trainer. I kind of lost it when I smelled the nectar in the attack. It was just so heavenly. Ash chuckled lightly as he connected their auras. It's fine Heracross. I know how you can get, now keep your eyes on that Meganium. It's too strong to take any chances. Heracross did as he was told and watched as Meganium stood up, glaring at the bug-fighting type. Meganium, use your Vine Whip to immobilize Heracross. Zaniel commanded. That Heracross is way too fast, we have to slow it down like we did with Pidgeot. Meganium shot out multiple vines towards the single-horned Pokemon who began dodging. Moving to the left and ducking, Heracross dodged several vines that tried to trap him. Hyper Beam. Ash's voice echoed in Heracross's head, who gained a determined look as he jumped above several more vines and fired the powerful blast at Meganium. Meganium, block it with Frenzy Plant. Zaniel yelled out as a green aura encased Meganium's body. Raising its front legs, he slammed them back onto the ground. A mild shake rocked the ground as large, thorn-covered vines erupted from the ground. They quickly wrapped around Meganium just as the Hyper Beam slammed into them, picking up dust as an explosion slightly shook the stadium. Everyone watched with bated breaths as the smoke cleared up to reveal Meganium who was still standing, shakily but standing nonetheless. Ash had to admit that he was really impressed by the Meganium. All those powerful from two of his powerful Pokemon and it's still refusing to go down. Zaniel looked at his Meganium in worry due to how much his legs were shaking. Meganium doesn't have much gas left in his tank. We got to let these last few shots count. As he thought that, his grass starter was surrounded by a bright green aura, meaning the activation of his special ability, Overgrow. No more head-on attacks, Ash thought. Overgrow will overpower even Hyper Beam, unless he uses Frenzy Plant which would crush all of our attacks. Heracross, we are going to have to be cautious of that Meganium. Let's start it off with Aerial Ace, but keep your eyes peeled. Heracross narrowed his eyes at Meganium as he rushed the grass type. Zaniel gritted his teeth while trying to think of a counter, before an idea came to him. Meganium, use Sweet Scent. Slightly confused, Meganium once more filled the stadium with a sweet smell. Once more, Heracross grew excited at the heightened strength of the sweet-smelling nectar. Losing himself, Heracross rushed towards Meganium with a dazed look in his eyes. Meganium had a slightly worried look in his eyes as he stared at the speedy bug-fighting Pokemon. When Heracross was within close range, Zaniel smirked at Ash due to his plan working. Meganium, use Dragon Tail. Meganium's tail glowed brightly and scaly once more and extended again. Heracross, get out of there. Ash yelled out, figuring out what Zaniel was trying to do. Heracross snapped out of his daze as he tried to move out of the way, but was unable to react in time. The dragon tail hit Heracross across the chest and sent him sailing backwards as he glowed red and returned to his Pokeball much like Pidgeot did. Ash's last Pokeball burst open as a Snorlax appeared in a bright flash of light. Ash looked at his Snorlax that was yawning, not liking that 3 of his Pokemon for this battle were revealed already. This is definitely why he chose that Meganium of his, Ash thought as realization dawned on him. His Meganium was not easy to knock out with its seemingly high defense and his Dragon Tail was used to force his Pokemon to switch that way he knows what he was dealing with in terms of opponents. Plus now I have 3 Pokemon that battled and he has 2 fresh Pokemon ready to go. This guy is really good. Ash had to admit, it was a very thought-out plan. He smirked in excitement at the thought. Feeling like he didn't need to hold back nearly as much as he did before. Alright. Ash cheered out. Snorlax, keep your guard up. That Meganium is tough and currently has its Overgrow ability activated. It's not going to be easy to win this. Snorlax nodded to his trainer. Meganium, use Bulldoze, Zaniel yelled out in confidence that he has a high advantage. Thanks to our training, Meganium should faster than. His thoughts were interrupted as Ash gave out a command. Snorlax, use Protect. Then follow it up with Hyper Beam. Snorlax quickly surrounded itself in a bubble that saved Snorlax from being hurt. Quickly charging up, Snorlax fired the attack at the surprised Meganium. The attack slammed into Meganium, exploding upon impact. When the smoke began to clear, Zaniel's Meganium could not even attempt to stand anymore. Meganium is unable to battle. Victory goes to Snorlax, the reference announced as the crowd cheered for Meganium's hard work. Meganium did his job, Zaniel thought. Pidgeot, Heracross, and Snorlax are his 3 chosen Pokémon. The first 2 fought already, so they have been chipped down. Snorlax is still pretty fresh and raring to go, so he's my main priority. Grabbing a Pokeball, he grips it tightly as he smirks. I have just the one. In the stands. Sitting in the crowd was a young woman a few years older than Ash. She has dark teal, bordering black hair that was short in length. She was pretty average in height with a playful, yet shy brown eyes. She wore an orange kimono with sakura petals as the design. This was Erica, the Celadon gym leader and a friend of Ash's. She's also the girlfriend and lover of Jacob Matthews. Erica had just finished her battle until later and was on her way to her boyfriend, Jacob's battle. She realized he didn't have a battle until later, so she had to kill, not knowing where his right now. She heard Ash's name be announced and decided to watch him battle. She could honestly say that she was impressed by the battle thus far. He handles his Pokémon well and was much more thorough in his commands, which was a far cry from how he used to battle. Now, while he may be in the lead, he now has to battle with 2 tired Pokémon. This piqued her interest to see how Ash plans to win this with such a clear disadvantage. So Ash, she said. How do you plan to get out of this one? By taking this battle more seriously, of course, a voice said, causing Erica to look over. Standing next to her was a young man that looked to be 15 years old. He had slick back, black hair that had the tips dyed a red color. He had piercing red eyes that seemed to hold a deep mystery to them. He wore a red suit that was buttoned up and a lime green tie. He wore black dress shoes to complete the outfit. What makes you believe he's not taking it seriously right now? Erica asked curiously. The man turned to her and smiled brightly, causing her surprise at how warm it was. Ash is merely getting into it as time goes on, the man replied as his gaze turned to the field as Zaniel released a Pinsir to the field. Just watch, you will be surprised and will definitely enjoy it. They both paid close attention, just as a brick break from Pinsir collided with an ice beam from Snorlax with powerful force. Back to the battle. Pinsir, break away and use Stone Edge. Zaniel commanded as he saw his Pinsir was slowly being pushed back. The stag beetle Pokémon jumped away as he shot the sharp stones at the bigger Pokémon. Snorlax, block them with Protect. Ash countered as Snorlax took no damage from the rock-type move. Now Snorlax, Zen Headbutt. A blue shroud of aura surrounded Snorlax as he rushed at Pinsir, with surprising speed considering its huge size. Pinsir was slammed into by the speedy Snorlax, causing it to yell in pain, but he kept on his feet as he prepared to counter. Pinsir, use X-Scissor. Zaniel commanded. Pinsir rushed at Snorlax with the bug-type attack fully charged. Snorlax barely dodged the attack by sidestepping him. Bug bite now. Pinsir quickly bit into Snorlax's arm, causing him to grunt in pain. Snorlax, use Ice Punch, Ash commanded. Snorlax charged his free hand with ice energy before lunging at the biting Pinsir. The bug-type let go as he barely dodged a direct impact, but was still shivering from the cold air of the attack. Zen Headbutt. Acting quickly, Snorlax rammed the Psychic-type attack into Pinsir, causing him to yell out in pain. Snorlax, follow that up with Ice Punch, Ash commanded. And don't let up on the power too much, this guy is too good to hold back as much. Snorlax launched the ice-covered fist at Pinsir, hitting the stag beetle Pokémon in the chest and causing him to sail back from the super-effective hit. Pinsir was able to force himself to his feet, flinching slightly as small pieces of ice broke off from its chest. Pinsir glared at the larger Pokémon, tightening its fist. Damn, for a Snorlax it's pretty fast, Zaniel thought as his Pinsir began growling. And like any Snorlax, it's a powerhouse of a Pokemon. I need a way to keep Snorlax occupied one way, so I can attack another way. Pinsir doesn't know double team, so that plan is out the window. Zaniel's eyes widened as he gained a thought. A distraction, that's it. Pinsir, use Stone Edge and make sure it's widespread. Pinsir quickly followed its trainer's command and surrounded itself with twice as many sharp stones before shooting them at Snorlax with a roar. The sharp attacks rushed forward in all directions, making it impossible to dodge no matter which direction the sleeping Pokemon moved. Snorlax, block it with Protect, Ash commanded, confused by the move. Yes, against a normal Pokemon such a tactic is dangerous, but against a Pokemon with Protect is another story. It's easily countered. Just as Ash expected, Snorlax's Protect easily countered the widespread Rock-type attack. When he looked at Zaniel, he was surprised to see that Zaniel wasn't at all. In fact, he was smirking. Looking back to the battlefield, Ash was shocked. He couldn't see the field. The debris was from the Stone Edge was blocking his sight. Pinsir, use Bug Bite. He heard Zaniel command. The command was quickly followed by a pained yell from Snorlax. The debris quickly cleared as it revealed Pinsir on Snorlax's back and biting onto his shoulder. Before Ash could tell Snorlax to shake Pinsir off, Zaniel yelled out his next order. Now use Brick Break quickly. Pinsir let go of Snorlax before slamming his glowing hand on the back of his neck with devastating force. The super effective hit caused Snorlax to yell even louder in pain and stumble forward. Snorlax, don't give in and use Ice Punch, Ash yelled out, in an attempt to get some damage in. Snorlax quickly spun around and slammed the ice-covered fist into Pinsir's face, causing the bug type to screech in pain. Pinsir was sent sailing back before stopping just barely in front of his trainer, ice breaking off its unconscious form. Pinsir is unable to battle, victory goes to Snorlax. The referee announced just barely over the roar of the crowd. Trainer, please release your final Pokemon. Hey, so I'm down to my final partner, Zaniel thought as a smirk grew on his face. This is why I have the battle locked. Roar to the battlefield, Typhlosion. He tossed the Pokeball and in a bright flash of light, his Typhlosion roared powerfully. The volcano Pokemon roared once more as the small holes on his back shot out very intense flames. Going on all fours, Typhlosion growled and glared at the sleeping Pokemon. Ash glanced to his Snorlax, taking the wounds it suffered into account as well as its heavy breathing from taking all those hits. I may have all three of my Pokemon, but each one is tired while one of them is at a disadvantage, Ash thought as he began to make a plan. Snorlax, charge up your Thunder Punch. Snorlax clenched its small fists as electricity erupted around them. The big Pokemon stared down Typhlosion, who didn't flinch from the cackling electricity. Typhlosion, use Double Edge, Zaniel commanded as Typhlosion took off at high speed, leaving a small trail of white energy behind him. The two attacks collided in a show of power, causing the ground to shake. Unable to keep up the effort any longer, Typhlosion was pushed back by the Thunder Punch. Use Flamethrower, Typhlosion, Zaniel countered. Recovering quickly, Typhlosion unleashed the hot flames that covered the surprised Snorlax. Impressive, Ash thought as he analyzed the growling fire type. It was able to recover so quickly and even counterattacked so easily. It's definitely well trained. Gazing slightly at his tired Snorlax, he grimaced. We will have to proceed with caution. Snorlax, use Zen Headbutt. Snorlax was covered in a veil of blue psychic energy before he charged towards Typhlosion at full speed. Shocked by its speed, Snorlax was able to slam into the fire type and send it flying back. Not willing to lose, Typhlosion twisted its body and landed on his feet. He skidded on the ground and stopped in front of its trainer. Use Double Edge. Typhlosion took off and slammed right back into Snorlax and sent him back too. Snorlax stopped his movement and dropped to one knee, trying to regain its bearings. Now let's wrap this up with Euro Ball, Typhlosion. The fire starter spun around at high speeds as he rammed Snorlax into the ground. The ground shook before Typhlosion jumped away, revealing an unconscious Snorlax. Snorlax is unable to battle, victory goes to Typhlosion. Trainer, send out your next choice, the referee announced as Ash returned Snorlax. I know it will be difficult, buddy, Ash said mentally as he sensed the confidence from the Pokeball in his hands. but we will give it our all. Heracross, may the aura guide you. The bug-fighting Pokemon of Johto appeared on the field again. Let's do this. Heracross yelled out to his trainer. Ash smiled at Heracross as he knew the Pokemon was exhausted. Even with it having a disadvantage, Heracross was still willing to do all he could to win. That's all he could ever ask for. Heracross, start off with Aerial Ace, Ash commanded as his aura flared slightly. Due to this battle getting more serious, he decided to get more serious as well. Heracross took off and slammed into the fire type, who braced himself for the attack. Typhlosion, counter him with Flamethrower, Zaniel commanded as Typhlosion unleashed his flamers at Heracross, who just barely dodged by ducking under it. Heracross, Brick Break, Ash yelled. Heracross's right hand glowed as he hit Typhlosion with as much force as he could, sending the Volcano Pokemon back. Gyro Ball now, Zaniel said, not giving in to his worry. Typhlosion rushed at Heracross as he began spinning in high speeds. Heracross, catch him and use Rock Slide, Ash commanded smoothly. The giant bug braced himself before grabbing the spinning Typhlosion, barely stopping its spinning. Heracross's eyes glowed slightly before ripples appeared above the two Pokemon. Rocks began falling from the ripples, descending at high speeds. Crap! Typhlosion! Zaniel yelled. Use Eruption to blow those rocks away. Typhlosion roared as his fire erupted from his body and a pillar of fire rose from his shoulders, destroying the rock slide. Great! Now use Double Edge to get free, followed by Flamethrower. The fire type glowed slightly before ramming its head into the surprised Heracross. It then shot the fire attack, engulfing the bug-fighting Pokemon. When the flames ceased, Heracross was still standing as smoke rose off its body. Ash sighed as he watched Heracross fall and hit the ground. You did great, my friend. Heracross is unable to battle. Victory goes to Typhlosion. Please release your final Pokemon. Ignoring the cheering of the crowd, Ash focused on his last Pokeball, not at all worried. Ash tossed it as his Pidgeot burst from its confines. She released a loud screech as she landed in front of Ash, her wings opened slightly. I have to admit, you were really good, Zaniel, Ash complimented. You definitely showed me why you made it this far, but that's all going to change. From now on, you will be battling the champion of the Kalos region. Pidgeot opened her wings wide as she screeched in agreement with her trainer. Thanks for the compliment, Ash, Zaniel replied. You're good too, and I expected nothing less from the Kalos champion. Show us that strength you used to beat Diantha. Typhlosion's flames burst from his body as he roared. Pidgeot, let's not disappoint him, Ash said through his aura, causing Pidgeot to nod. Aerial Ace, full speed. Pidgeot screeched before she took off at speeds that made her almost impossible to track. She slammed into Typhlosion, causing him to yell in pain, before ascending back to the sky. Now follow it up with Air Slash. She shot the flying type attack at the Volcano Pokemon, sending it sailing across the field. Typhlosion, Flamethrower. The fire starter shot the powerful flames at the flying normal, who only glared at the attack but made no attempt to move. Pidgeot, dodge with agility and follow it up with Aerial Ace once more, Ash commanded calmly. Pidgeot moved at speeds that made it look like she was disappearing and reappearing around a confused Typhlosion. Taking off at speeds faster than before, Pidgeot rushed at Typhlosion. Quick! Double team now! Zaniel yelled to his partner. The fire Pokemon glowed before copies of Typhlosion appeared. Unable to maneuver easily, Pidgeot ran into one of the Typhlosions, causing it to vanish as she went through him. This meant the one she hit was a fake. So you think you can get by our fast speed by confusing us? Ash asked lowly. Well, guess again. Pidgeot, use Hurricane to blow them all away. Pidgeot flapped her now glowing wings with blurring speeds as the winds picked up. It started off small and grew larger and larger until the winds covered most of the battlefield. This caused all the Typhlosions, except one, to vanish. The last one was struggling to remain standing as the hurricane caused its fur to whip around wildly. Typhlosion, concentrate and use Protect. Typhlosion was able to hear its trainer and created a bubble of green energy, stopping the fire type from being dealt any more damage. Ash smirked, seeing Typhlosion fall directly into his trap. That Protect will not help against us. Pidgeot, get in close and use your swagger. Pidgeot seemingly disappeared, moving faster than the harsh winds could dissipate. Appearing in front of the bubbled Typhlosion, she released a sigh that hit the fire type directly. Typhlosion became dizzy as his eyes gained a blank look. He began swaying back and forth, as if standing was a hard job for him. Pidgeot has successfully confused Typhlosion. Typhlosion, no. Zaniel yelled in worry, lost about what to do. 2 straight battles and now a third where he is outclassed in speed. Plus now with him being confused, he could see the advantage he had earlier slipping away rapidly. Now Pidgeot, use return followed by aerial ace, Ash commanded as he crossed his arms. Pidgeot's eyes glowed white for a moment as she began to wail on her opponent gracefully. She headbutt the fire Pokémon, sending it sailing back. Faster than any of them could track, Pidgeot delivered another direct, and powerful, aerial ace to his back. Typhlosion slammed in front of his trainer, conscious but still confused. Come on Typhlosion. Snap out of it and use eruption. Typhlosion was able to stand up, but instead of using the commanded move, he slammed his head into the ground repeatedly. Pidgeot, let's wrap this up. Air slash. Ash commanded, ready to continue his day. Pidgeot nodded as she flapped her wings and released several slashes that were all direct hits. Typhlosion could only make a small cry before he was dropped to the ground completely knocked out. Typhlosion is unable to battle, victory goes to Pidgeot. Continuing to the next round is Ash Ketchum. The referee announced, causing the audience to cheer loudly for the amazing battle. Ignoring the crowd, Ash happily pet Pidgeot's beak as he told her how good of a job she did. I'll give you a reward at the clearing, return. Ash sent Pidgeot back to her Pokeball before making his way to Zaniel, who was making his way to the Kalos champion. The two smirked and shook hands. You and your Pokemon were amazing out there, Ash said. It was a very enjoyable battle. Thank you, Zaniel replied. It was great and a perfect way to see where we stood compared to a champion. Now we can use this to get stronger, so be ready. We will battle again. I will be looking forward to it, Zaniel, Ash nodded. As Ash walked away, he waved to the cheering crowd. Zaniel left the field through the opposite tunnel. To the audience. Erica clapped in joy along with the audience, happy to see the young man she battled so long ago do so well. She honestly thought that Ash was pushed into a tough predicament, but he was able to pull out more strength in the end. It's obvious he has really earned his title. Looking to the side, she addressed the handsome man next to her. You were right about Ash holding back. Are you a friend of his? The man watched as Ash left before turning his gaze to the leaving Zaniel. No, not really, he replied. I haven't met him yet, but I will when I'm ready. I just seen him battle before. Oh by the way, my name is Crow Shade, it's very nice to meet you. How rude of me, my name is Erica and I'm the Celadon City Gym leader, Erica greeted cheerfully. Crow's smile widened when he heard her name. It made Erica blush in embarrassment slightly. It's a pleasure to meet you. Well Miss Erica, Crow said as he began walking. As much as I would love to stay and talk with you, I have something to do and I only had time to watch this battle. I wish you a good day. The same to you Crow, Erica responded. Hope to see you again. Her response was a thumbs up from Crow as he walked away. Don't worry, we definitely will, he thought joyfully. He made his way among the crowd towards the exit as the next battle for this block was being called. I just have something to do first. To Ash. Ash exited the tunnel, feeling satisfied with how the battle went. While it wasn't enough to make him go all out in the beginning of the battle, this trainer had definitely pushed limits. The fact remains, if Pidgeot held back then she would have lost against that Typhlosion. The guy was definitely an elite trainer, possibly gym leader level. I hope to battle him again soon, Ash said as he fixed his hat to block out the bright sun. I can't wait for a full 6-on-6, all-out battle with him. As he said the last part, he released Lucario from a Pokeball on his waist. Lucario stretched as the sun made his silver fur glimmer. He looked to his trainer and smiled. So master, what's next on our to-do list? Not sure yet buddy, Ash sighed, knowing that Lucario is calling him that just to annoy him. Let's go see if anyone is battling, maybe we can catch the competition a bit. Lucario nodded as he joined Ash's side. Before they could walk away, a woman's voice called out to him. Ash, wait up. Turning around, Ash saw Erika running up to him while holding the bottom of her kimono up. Ash smiled at the Celadon gym leader. Hey Erika. He greeted as he waved at her. She stopped in front of the young champion, smiling. She gave him a quick hug in greeting, happy to see him. It's great to see you again, she said. When you went missing all those years ago, I got worried. No one could find a trace of you anywhere. Yeah, sorry if I worried you Erika, Ash replied, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. I just had to get away for a while. Then one thing led to another and now I'm a champion. Congratulations on that by the way, Erika replied with a warm smile. You grew up very well since we last battled each other. Maybe we can have a match soon. I would love to see how much you have changed personally. Ash smiled as he nodded. Before Ash could say anything more, he felt a dark power nearby, causing him and Lucario to pause. Lucario and Ash looked to the left and took off in worry. The dark feeling was so powerful, it could be the man that they have been looking for. Seeing both Ash and Lucario running off confused and worried Erika. She ran after them, unsure about why they were running. They reached a dark alley, the sun's bright rays avoiding it as if afraid to illuminate it. In the alley stood a figure, arms crossed as he stared at them. The figure was tall, slightly above Ash himself. He wore a black hoodie that hid his face away, two glowing red orbs piercing the dark veil, most likely the figure's eyes. I must admit, I didn't think you would have responded so fast, nor be the first one here. I should have waited a little longer. Oh well Tilda, he chuckled slightly. Are you Shadow? Ash asked as he pulled out some of his aura. His Lucario walked up as his aura spiked, causing his eyes to glow a bright blue. Are you the one that attacked my sister? You seem very calm about this, the figure responded, amused by the questions. To answer, yes I am. I'm the one that attacked little Alex, Shadow. What are you going to do about it? I'll make sure that you pay. Ash yelled as he created an aura sphere in anger. He shot the attack at Shadow, knowing it would hurt but not kill the man. He had no desire to commit a murder. A dark pulse shot from behind the cloaked man, blocking and canceling the powerful aura sphere. Ash blocked his face slightly due to the powerful shockwave, keeping his aura stretched out in case he attempts to run. He looked up as he felt a new aura signature beside the man, glaring at the culprit of the dark pulse. Floating beside the man was an enraged Mismagus. You will not go near my master, the ghost type, a girl, said angrily. Lucario was about to step forward, but had to deflect a pink orb that him from above. A moonblast, Lucario thought as he looked up. A powerful one at that too, it wasn't easy to deflect. He saw an angry Espeon in the roof of the building, glaring at him and his trainer. The Espeon's fur was on edge as it growled in rage, its left ear, which was missing a good chunk, twitched as he was prepared to strike at anything that moved. You will not get in the way, Espeon growled. I would back away if I were you. The now identified, male Espeon's eyes glowed as he glared at Lucario, who was not backing down and glared back. Lucario can handle Espeon just fine. Ash glanced at the two Pokemon behind. He kept his sense on Shadow and Mismagus, who only stayed put, like they were waiting on something. Shadow's head turned slightly to the left, his attention to the alley entrance. From around the corner, Erika was watching what was going on in worry. That man in the cloak, the one named Shadow, gave her a horrible feeling that spread throughout her body. She remembered when Jacob came back to the apartment yesterday, mumbling angrily about a guy with that name. Even his Pokemon gave her a bad feeling, making her want to run. Her body froze as Shadow gazed at her, amusement clear in his red eyes. It seems I attracted an audience, Shadow spoke in joy. A very pretty one too. This is fun but sadly I have no use for you. Mismagus, go get rid of her. The ghost type floated without a word as she charged a shadow ball. Ash's and Lucario's eyes widened at the shadow ball and the nonchalant command. Lucario was about to counter the ghost attack, but had to block a speedy iron tail from the annoyed Espeon with a bone rush. I told you that you were not to interfere, he said. He ignored the sparks that were flying from their clash. Lucario was surprised that the Espeon seemed to match him in power. Even if he was holding back, so was the psychic Pokemon. Mismagus fired the shadow ball with a cry. The dark ball raced towards the still Erika. Ash too was about to block the shadow ball, but he was stopped as he ducked under a shockwave that was shot at him by the Espeon, who was still deadlocked with Lucario. This shocked Ash at the skill that Espeon showed. To be able to use two attacks at the same time, while holding back another attack opponent showed tremendous control, focus, and mastery of your attacks. Ash charged an aura sphere quickly, knowing he had to stop that shadow ball at all cost. He turned around and shot the blue sphere at the ghost-type attack just in time, causing it to explode. This caused smoke to cover them up and attract the attention of more people. Activating his aura sight, Ash found that Shadow, along with his two Pokémon had vanished. Lucario followed suit with his aura sense, trying to locate them, but couldn't find them either. There was a little residue of aura from Mismagius and Espeon, but there was absolutely nothing left of Shadow. Who exactly is that man? Ash thought as he made his way to Erica, to check and see if she was okay. Ignoring the gathering crowd, he held his out to the downed gym leader. Are you alright, Erica? Taking his hand, Erica nodded as she got up with his help. Yeah, just a bit shaky. What happened back there? Ash shook his head as he looked at Lucario, who was still looking around. I'm not too sure myself. All I know is that man is a threat that needs to be taken down. I'm going to talk to Lance and the other champions when I see them. Erica nodded at his plan, seeing the reason. It's best to have more eyes around when looking for someone like that. Why not the gym leaders too? She asked as she realized that Ash excluded telling the gym leaders about this threat. Ash sighed as he gestured for Erica to follow him, not wanting to talk about this with crowd around them. I'll tell you as we go, too many eyes right now. Erica nodded as the two trainers and one Pokémon began walking away. When they got a good distance away, Ash sighed once more as he looked for Jacob's aura. To answer your earlier question, Erica, he began, turning a corner. The gym leaders are strong, no doubt, but this guy is on a whole other level right now. While they would be told to look out, it will lead to more trouble if they tried to interfere. Plus that Espeon, it's on an Elite 4 level if not more than that. So if we try to battle him, we have a higher chance of losing, Erica finished, clenching the hem of her kimono tightly. For such a danger to be nearby and told she is too weak to be any help, it really hurt her pride. It also annoyed her that she is being underestimated. Ash shook his head as he looked at her apologetically. I'm sorry if you think I am calling you weak, he replied as he looked forward again. I know you're strong, very much so, but this guy is an unknown. He's already commanding one elite level Pokémon, there's no telling what else he has. He even used a Gengar, about low level elite, to battle and almost beat my Elite 4 member Alex Rain's Absol. I'm just not comfortable sending so many people against such an unknown person. Especially with how ruthless he is, which I'm sure Jacob told you about. Erica nodded as Jacob did indeed inform her. While she didn't get the full story, since Jacob wasn't there for the whole thing, she knows Shadow killed his own Gengar for losing. Showing he has no care for life, at all. For now, he's in hiding and he's good at it, Ash said as he stopped to look at a nearby ice cream stand. Finding him will be impossible, unless he slips up or allows us to. He can hide his aura to such a degree that I can't sense him at all, so we can only wait right now until the time comes that can catch him or a way to track him. He gestured to the ice cream stand as he smiled at the grass gym leader. Want some ice cream, my treat? Erica smiled lightly at Ash, before she nodded. Well, since you're buying, how could I say no? While still annoyed by the situation, she understood where the young champion was coming from. Plus by technicality, Ash is her boss in situations like these, so she couldn't really do anything about it. Plus she's getting free ice cream, nothing to complain about. In the woods. Appearing in a flash, signifying the use of teleport, Shadow and his 3 Pokémon landed softly on the ground. Moving in blurring speed, Shadow ripped off his hood and used his other hand to grab his Mismagius by the throat, choking her. Espeon looked at the scene with a blank expression, knowing this was going to happen. He knew Shadow wasn't happy with the ghost type's performance and knew that Mismagius was going to be punished. And knowing Shadow, it's going to be painful. Mismagius struggled and gagged under her trainer's strong, iron grip. The ghost type gazed pleadingly at Shadow, hoping that he will have enough mercy to let her go. only to realize that plan was a bust as she noticed his glare had no hint of amusement, just his anger and annoyance. You were pathetic, Shadow said, no trace of amusement in his trace either. I gave you a simple task, eliminate that girl with your shadow ball. Espion even have you time to do so and you still failed. Give me one good reason to not devour your essence for having failed me, which I don't take lightly. Mismagus only squeaked as she lost more oxygen, making it harder to stay conscious, let alone breathe. She couldn't even find the strength to phase through his grip, not that it would help the situation at all. She knew the moment her shadow ball was stopped, that shadow would be displeased with her. I guess you don't have an answer for me, such a shame, Shadow replied in mock sadness as the black ethereal chains rose from his other hand. Oh well, least I get a free meal. Before the chains could lunge at the fearful Mismagus, Espion walked up slowly. It wouldn't be wise to devour Mismagus, Master, Espion spoke, practically growling at the word, Master. Lord Red would not be pleased that you killed another Pokemon partner, just after being given a new one. Add to the fact it's one of the few captured ghost types that we have at the moment, killing her will definitely lead to harsh retributions. Shadow paused as he considered his Pokemon's words, knowing that he was right. Red is usually lenient with Shadow, as long as he doesn't delay his overall mission. If he were to anger Red, then the results will not be good for him. An angered Red is a Red he wished to never face. He'd rather face several legendary Pokemon barehanded at the same time. Nodding his head, Shadow let go of Mismagus's neck, causing the ghost type to gasp deeply as she breathed in the air greedily. Before she could think she was in the clear, Shadow backhanded her with enough force to send her sailing into a tree. Mismagus cried in pain as she hit the tree hard, doing her best to stay awake. Shadow then kicked her into the ground, on her back before slamming his foot on her stomach in glee as he heard her cry in pain. I don't accept failure on my records, Mismagus, he said in his usual amused tone. You would do well to remember that and you may get to live. Fail me again and I will deal with the boss's wrath after I slowly devour you. Do we have an understanding, weakling? Mismagus nodded, wanting to do anything to make this pain stop. Even that excruciating training she had to endure could compare to this man's hits. Smiling happily, Shadow took his foot off the ghost type as he walked away. Good girl, he said chuckling. He walked by a tree as he reached out and pulled a figure out. The figure was a man who was tied up and gagged. The man was unconscious so was unable to fight Shadow's grip. We have to get our soon-to-be new recruit to Lord Red, he said as he dragged the figure towards Espion. His skills will prove to be useful to him, he just needs some convincing. So let's go and get him through his initiation. He looked at the man and chuckled. Welcome to the team, Zaniel. To Ash and Erica. Come on Ash, Erica yelled as she ran to the stadium ahead, Ash and Lucario not far behind. We are already late for the start of Jacob's match. Not like that's my fault, Ash replied as he sped up. You're the one that got distracted by that perfume shop and lost track of time. After buying their ice cream cones, the two trainers and Aura Pokemon made their way to the battle stadium where Jacob would be having his match. As they enjoyed their cones and small talk, Erica paused when she caught the familiar scent of fresh perfume. Making her way to the smell, with Ash and Lucario behind her, she found a small shop named, Smell from Around the World. It was a cologne and perfume shop that was run by an elderly couple named Martha and Jack. The moment they entered the shop, the couple recognized her and welcomed her with open arms. Needless to say, the three perfume specialists got along really well. It was so well in fact that Erica not only forgot Ash and Lucario were with her, but lost complete track of time. By the time Ash got the Celadon gym leader's attention back, Jacob's battle was about to begin. Now we find the three running to be able to at least not miss the entire match. Running up the stairs and into the audience, they were able to find 2 seats that were available. Looking to his friend, they spoke through their aura. Lucario, I want you to go to higher ground and keep your senses on high alert, Ash said. There is no telling where or when that shadow character may strike again and with stronger Pokemon. If you so much as think he's nearby, you have my full permission to strike. Lucario nodded as he ran off and jumped to the top of the stadium in blurring speed. The crowd was too engrossed in the battle before them to notice or care. Looking at the scoreboard, it showed that they missed a good amount of the battle. Jacob was in the lead with 2 Pokemon, which were his Vaporeon and Venusaur. In fact, the only Pokemon he lost was his Ludicolo. His opponent was a girl with dark blue hair, on her last Pokemon, which was an Alakazam. She lost an Absol and a Pyroar female. The current 2 Pokemon, Venusaur and Alakazam, were glaring down each other. Charging up, the 2 Pokemon shot an Energy Ball and Shadow Ball effectively. Alakazam, use Confuse Ray, Jane commanded as Alakazam released the Hypnotic Waves at Venusaur. Venusaur, use Energy Ball on the ground, then follow it up with your Razor Leaf, Widespread, Jacob commanded, already knowing how to counter such a thing. Following its trainer's command quickly, the Seed Pokemon slammed the Grass attack in front of him. The purpose was not to only hide the big Pokemon among the dust and debris, but to use the loud explosion to block out the Confuse Ray's effect. Following right behind the attack, Sharp Leaves raced out of the smoke and cut up the unprepared Psychic type who could only roar out of pain. Alakazam, ground your feet, Jane yelled in encouragement. The Psychic type right itself and stopped its movement. Great job. Go and use your Focus Blast. Shooting another orb, this one a bluish-white, Alakazam glared at any possible counter Venusaur may have. Use Petal Blizzard to guard yourself, Jacob countered. Releasing a loud soar, the Grass Poison type released hundreds of tiny, pink petals that surround Venusaur, making a small barrier that blocked the fighting type move. Energy Ball. The green orb raced across the field with blurring speeds, making Alakazam and his trainer's eyes widen. Alakazam, dodge it quickly and use Psychic to send it back. The Psychic type dodged the attack by jumping to the left and used its Psychic attack to gain control of the Energy Ball. Thrusting its hand forward, he hurled the attack back at the surprised Venusaur. The attack caused Venusaur to growl in pain from the speedy impact. While the Energy Ball would normally not do much due to it being a Grass-type attack on a Grass-type Pokemon, the speed hurled along with it being mixed with the psychic energy of Alakazam made the attack do significantly more damage. Using that opening, Alakazam fired another powerful Shadow Ball that slammed into Venusaur, pushing the final evolution started back. No longer able to sustain the pain from its earlier battles and now, the Grass Poison Pokemon fell flat on his stomach and fainted. Jacob silently returned Venusaur to his Pokeball before taking out another one and with a gentle throw, released his final Pokemon. In a flash of light, Jacob's shiny Vaporeon appeared in all his glory, glaring at the Alakazam in anticipation. Connecting his aura to Vaporeon, Jacob spoke mentally. Be ready Vaporeon, it has quick reflexes. You can definitely outspeed him, but it also has a good amount of long-range attacks, its Shadow Ball being its strongest. The water type nodded, not really all that worried. It dealt with many Pokemon with similar skills before, it will be able to handle this like all the others. Before he could give out a command, a familiar aura connected to his. Allowing it to connect, he heard a voice in his head, not unlike when he speaks to his Pokemon in such a way. You seem to be having some trouble my friend, a familiar voice rung in his head. You better kick it up, you don't want to look bad to you. Besides, I want to battle you myself. Jacob smiled slightly as he recognized the voice belonging to Ash. We will be fine Ash, I refuse to go down just yet. Not until you and I have that rematch. Vaporeon, use Water Pulse, Jacob commanded. Then follow after it with your quick attack. Vaporeon shot the orb of water at his opponent, quickly following behind it in such speeds that it was a blur to the audience. Alakazam, stop the water pulse with Psychic and spread it out as a shield to stop him, Jane yelled. Doing as told, Alakazam took control of the attack and forced it to flatten out into a makeshift shield. Don't stop, use Shadow Ball and keep going, Jacob commanded, not at all worried. By watching her body language, he was able to tell that Jane was getting desperate. Just push a little harder and the match will be his. While still using the speedy effects of quick attack, Vaporeon released the ghost-type attack that blasted a hole in the shield Alakazam created using his previous attack. As soon as he ran through the hole, he sped up and took notice that his Shadow Ball was still rushing at the Alakazam. Use Scald to push the Shadow Ball, Jacob said. Building up the heated water, Vaporeon released the attack that hit the ghost-type move from behind. The combined attack rushed at Alakazam with renewed speed, too fast for him to react. The two-attack combo slammed into the psychic type, causing him to yell in pain. Suddenly the still-speeding Vaporeon rammed into the taller Pokémon, causing him to sail back. The water-type back-flipped through the air before landing in front of his trainer in a battle-ready stance. After Alakazam came to halt, he struggled to keep from falling down. He tightened its grip on its spoons and tried to concentrate. The problem being, he had two battles prior to this one and both were tough. He barely took down Ludicolo and it was more luck than anything due to it being the Pokémon to knock out two of his trainer's Pokémon, and Venusaur was a Pokémon that he barely outlasted. No longer able to stay on his feet, Alakazam's legs gave out underneath him and promptly passed out. As soon as the psychic type hit the ground, the referee made the call. Alakazam is unable to battle, making the winner of this battle Vaporeon and Jacob Matthews. Ash and Erica. After the announcement was made, the crowd cheered at the awesome battle. As Erica cheered loudly for her boyfriend's win, and Ash clapped while smirking. I sadly missed most of it, but I can see Jacob has definitely gotten stronger since we last battled one another, he mentally thought as he watched Jacob shake hands with his opponent. Looking to the happy Erica, Ash couldn't help but smile at the obvious love she felt for his more quiet friend. Come on Erica, let's go catch up to him, Ash said to the gym leader, who smiled happily as she nodded her head. Let's get going then Ash, she said as she looked ready to run out. I haven't been with him all day. Ash nodded as he stood up and made his way out, Erica right behind him. In the tunnel. Jacob made his way from the stadium, going over the battle in his head. He was looking for any ways to fix any flaws for either himself or his Pokémon. As he walked, he felt a presence nearby and looked up to see a man standing there. He tensed as he clenched his fists and grinded his teeth. The man wore a red cloak that covered his entire body. The hood was off, revealing his face to the world, along with an amused smirk. Beside him was a bored-looking Espeon. The reason for Jacob's anger was who the man was. It was Shadow. Jacob was about to reach for his Pokeball, but stopped as the man raised his hand. Do you really think that to be a wise decision? He asked. By the time you grab one of your Pokeballs, Espeon will already have blasted you to bits. Even if you have the time to release a Pokémon, a battle would take place. A battle between two high-level Pokémon would be very destructive and we are under the seats of many innocent people. You wouldn't them to get caught in it, would you? Jacob's fists clenched tighter in anger, knowing that Shadow was right. From here, he could tell that Espeon was extremely powerful too powerful for any battle to be quick. Plus people, innocent people, would get hurt. Shadow had him stuck and he knew it. So what do you want from me? Jacob asked as he gathered his aura, hoping to alert Ash discreetly. I doubt you would reveal yourself to me so casually. Shadow nodded, his smirk turning to a more serious frown. You are correct, Shadow said. I don't have the time to waste on pointless visits. I am here to give you a warning instead. Jacob rose an eyebrow at Shadow's words. Stay out of my way, what goes on does not concern you. If you continue to get in my way, well I won't be as merciful to you as I was to Alex and Umbreon or to Gengar. Why are you after her? Jacob asked as he flared his aura more violently. Where are you Ash? I need your help or he will get away. That's not any of your concern Jacob, Shadow replied. All you need to concern yourself with is this, is getting in my way worth the life of myself and my Pokémon. I will not hesitate to devour them. He saw Jacob's fists clench even tighter, to a point he was drawing blood. Shadow's eyes seemed to light up at the sight and his smirk threatened to split his face. He opened his mouth to say more, but stopped when his Espeon's ears pointed upwards. The psychic type quickly charged a shadow ball and turned around before firing it. The attack collided with an incoming aura sphere, cancelling it out in a small explosion. Glancing back, Shadow saw Ash and Erica running up to them. Next to Erica was a Roserade that did not look happy and next to Ash was Melodic who was ready to attack on command. Well look what the Persian dragged in, Shadow said, not at all worried about his predicament. Looking back at Jacob, he saw that Ash's Lucario found them as well. All of this for little old me, how flattering. Jacob looked on in relief as he saw his friend and girlfriend arrive to help. Better late than never honestly, Jacob sighed mentally as he grabbed the Pokeball containing one of his more fresher Pokemon. Tossing it, he released a Leafeon that had a slightly darker coating than its normal bright green. You're done, Shadow. You're going to jail and answering for those you have hurt. Shadow began to chuckle lightly as his shoulders shook in his laughter. Your plan has so many holes that I don't know where to even begin, Jacob, he said as he looked around. First off, my points still stand that a battle here in this narrow hallway, under the seats of the audience above us, will cause untold amounts of chaos and pain due to the destruction such a battle will cause. Second, you suspect that just because I'm surrounded, that I won't fight back. You would be very wrong in that aspect since I would fight to my last breath. Third, even if by some miracle granted to you by Arceus that you did capture me, what are you going to say to the authorities? He eats Pokemon so he is bad. Newsflash, Jacob, Pokemon consumption isn't anything new. Pokemon are eaten all the time, hell Slowpoke tails are considered a delicacy. And lastly, you and Ash have captured nothing. In a blurring speed, Shadow took out a small black pellet before slamming it on the ground beneath him and Espeon. The pellet popped open and released a thick cloud of white smoke that quickly clouded everyone's vision. Stretching out their auras, Ash, Jacob, and Lucario sensed the aura of Espeon vanish. When the smoke finally cleared away and everyone could see once more, Shadow and Espeon were no longer there. Teleport, Jacob thought as he looked around. No doubt that was how they vanished in a split second, meaning that they could be anywhere by now. So did you sense the same problem that I did, Jacob? Ash asked, knocking his friend from his thought as he returned Melodic to her Pokeball. Thinking it over, Jacob instantly realized what Ash meant as he nodded. At his last encounter, Jacob didn't notice it too much due to his anger clouding his thoughts, but this time he was able to pick it up. Shadow has absolutely no aura in his body, and if he does, it's so minuscule that it's easily overlooked. Leafeon looked at Ash's Lucario who kept his aura sense active, in case they appear somewhere nearby. Anything yet, Lucario? The silver-furred Lucario simply shook his head as he relaxed slightly. No, not at all. No doubt they teleported far from my range. Shadow can't be detected, but his Pokemon can. Unfortunately I don't sense them anywhere. Leafeon nodded his head as he made his way back to his trainer. Let's continue this conversation at the Pokemon Center, Ash suggested as he pat the Pokeballs on his belt. My Pokemon deserve some rest after our last match, plus I'm curious who my next opponent is going to be. We can think of a way to search for Shadow there. Jacob nodded his head as he walked next to Erica, who immediately latched her hand with his. The two shared a brief kiss, happy to be in the presence of the other. Ash watched this in both joy and jealousy as a pang of pain made itself known in his heart. He felt joy that his two friends were so happy together, but he couldn't help the jealousy he felt for them too. It's not that he was jealous of them per se, he was jealous of the fact that he didn't have that with anyone. Yeah, he met many gorgeous women, but he was so focused on his dream and training that he never pursued any one of them. Now that he's a champion of a very accomplished region, he can't ignore that lonely feeling anymore. He's now standing alone at the top with no one to hold in a lover's embrace. As time went on, his elites even found love at the top before he found his and he traveled all over the world. Shaking his head from those thoughts, especially since he felt more pain and darkness grow from it, Ash grinned at the couple as walked ahead of them. Come on lovebirds, you guys have all night to make out with each other, preferably without me as your witness. He winked at the blushing couple as Erica stuttered over a retort to Ash's teasing. Lucario and Leafeon chuckled at the blushing couple, glad that Ash was able to lighten the mood so easily. Chuckling softly, Ash looked at the light which signified the exit of the tunnel and couldn't help but think. I wonder when I will find someone special to kiss and be embarrassed with like that one day. Stadium C. In Snorlax is unable to battle, the winner is Zebstrika and Elsa of the Unova Gym. The crowd cheered happily for the blonde gym leader's victory, the fans of her fashion show cheering the loudest. Alisa waved to the crowd as she pet Zebstrika down his spiky mane, rewarding him for a well-fought battle. After blowing them a few kisses, she returned the electric Pokemon to his Pokemon and left the field. My, another dazzling performance made by you all, Alisa said to her Pokemon that were in their Pokeballs as she exited the tunnel. You all fought so hard that our opponent was blinded by your radiance. She walked through the town and stopped at a shop here and there. She also signed a few autographs whenever a fan had recognized her. Alisa didn't mind it though since she adored all of her fans, both young and old. The blonde gym leader just left a clothing shop where she bought a new dress that she thought was cute. As she walked out joyfully, she took notice of a couple sitting on a bench happily together. The woman giggled as she leaned in and kissed her boyfriend gently before laying her head on his shoulder. That was so cute. Alisa shouted mentally as she smiled brightly at the sight. As she watched them, she couldn't help but replace herself with the woman and the man with a certain Kalos champion. Her face flushed at the thought of her and Ash together. She placed her hand on her chest as her heart rate increased. Ash was the only man she ever fell for, it was so easy for her to do so. For one, Ash was the only man that she couldn't dazzle so easily, which she saw as a personnel challenge. She's not arrogant by any sense of the word, but she knows she's one of the most beautiful women in Unova, if not the world. She could easily charm anyone with a smile, but Ash was different. He saw her as not only a challenge, but in equal standing too. Ash had effectively beaten her, even through questionable yet dazzling skills, but he did something else that caught her by complete surprise. He gave her one of the most amazing smiles that she had ever seen. The joy and happiness he had for his victory was so blinding to her, stunning the beautiful gym leader. She can't see aura like some people she heard could, but she was sure his aura at that moment could light up a dark cave. That dazzling smile, that radiant joy, that warm heart all caused her heart to soar. No one had ever made her feel such a way before and she loved it. As time went on, she looked more things up about him as she couldn't get him out of her mind. She asked about him from different people and he surpassed any expectations she may have had. He has helped so many people, ranging from helping others try to reach for their own dreams, to bringing families together. He's also helped many Pokemon like the legendary Red Gyarados that's owned by Lance. A story that he was all too happy to retell. She even learned from witness reports of the amount of legendary Pokemon that he not only met, but saved from either themselves or evil organizations. The fact he held himself back from the urge to try and capture the legends when he had the chance, impressed her as she didn't think she could fight the temptation at the chance to own a Pokemon like a Zapdos. All of that just made her growing feelings for Ash skyrocket. It also helped put Ash into a whole new light for her, and made her desire to be by Ash's side to grow. That plan, unfortunately never came to fruition as she found that Ash had disappeared. She, along with every other gym leader, went looking for him with no success. Ash had somehow kept himself hidden so well that even the G-Men, the best battlers and spy network, excluding gym leaders, Elite Four, etc., that the Pokemon League had. She had searched high and low for her crush, even going so far as to use her wide fanbase to look for any rumors of Ash anywhere. The results were a complete bust every time though. The rumors always ended up with her on a wild goose chase. The only good thing that came out of those chases was that she made a new friend by the name of Richie, who was so like Ash that they could have been parallel twins. He should be about finishing his match soon. Alisa shook her head as she continued her walk to the Pokemon Center, needing to heal her Pokemon, find out where her next battle will be, and find out if she could meet up with her best friend Skyla for lunch. The blonde gym leader walked leisurely as a thought crossed her mind, I wonder what my dear Ash is up to. At the Pokemon Center. Here you go everyone, all your Pokemon have made a full recovery, Nurse Joy said happily as she stood in front of 3 different trays, each holding a set of Pokeballs. Ash and Erica thanked the Joy as they picked up their Pokeballs, Jacob only giving her a nod and a smile in thanks. Ash turned around as he released his Lucario from his confines, who stretched upon being released. True that Lucario didn't need to be healed since he didn't battle in the first place, Ash still wanted him to go through a checkup. How you feeling, buddy? Ash asked his partner who responded with a nod. Ash turned to Jacob and Erica. Do you guys want to go grab a seat and finish our talk? Jacob nodded as he grabbed Erica's hand and made his way to the eating area of the Pokemon Center, Ash and Lucario right behind them. Before they could get to the eating area though, a small explosion from the battlefield out back caught their attention, mostly Ash's. That meant a battle was most likely going on, making him curious about whom it was. He made his way over to the battle silently. Seeing Ash has gained a new interest, Jacob sighed. He cared for Ash, he really did, but the guy was too obsessed with battling for his own good. He looked at his girlfriend as he gestured to Ash with his thumb. Shall we follow? Erica giggled, happy to see Ash still had some of his old self's habits in him after all this time of being gone. Yeah, let's go. Ash tends to be a trouble magnet. Jacob nodded as he knew Erica was right. Ash seemed to always attract some form of trouble his way without ever trying, even if he had no room to talk with all the things he has been through himself. Ending that thought, the couple followed after Trainer and Pokemon. When Ash made it to the field, he took notice of a clash between a Coughing and a Kirlia, one using Euro Ball and the other using Protect before using Teleport to gain some distance. Ash looked towards the two trainers that were battling and was pleasantly surprised to see the ones battling. The one on the right was Sabrina, the psychic gym leader of Saffron City. She had an annoyed expression on her face as she commanded Kirlia to dodge an incoming tackle from Coughing. Coughing, use Sludge Bomb. The girl on the left yelled, causing Ash to turn to see her. The girl was Roxy, the rock star, bass guitarist gym leader of Burbank City in Unova. Her specialty was poison-type Pokemon as seen with her skilled use of Coughing, who dodged a shadow ball from Kirlia with blurring speed. Roxy had both a grin, most likely from the tough battle, and an angry look in her eyes that she directed at Sabrina. Let's go Coughing, don't give in to Miss Prissy Pants and use Euro Ball. Coughing moved with insane speeds, looking like more of a blur, and spun in a rapid pace. It's called having proper etiquette little girl, Sabrina replied at the poison trainer's insult. Kirlia, counter with Protect then send it away with Psychic. Coughing slammed into the powerful barrier, not leaving a dent in the dome. Roxy smirked, knowing of a counter should something like this happen. Coughing, use Clear Smog to get out of there. Coughing stopped his spinning and released clear white smoke from his mouth, pushing Kirlia away before Psychic could be used. What's the matter Sabrina? Can't rock it with the big kid. You are such a child, Sabrina replied calmly, though the twitching of her eyebrow showed otherwise. No wonder you're so loud. Kirlia used Rapid Fire Shadow Ball. Kirlia quickly used her hands to create two powerful shadow balls and began throwing them in rapid succession, creating more. Of course I'm loud you prude, the poison gym leader replied, only annoyed by the child comment. My music and battles are always cranked to the max. Coughing, dodge them all. Coughing quickly dodged each of the flying orbs with his high speed, weaving and spinning through the storm of attacks. Now counter with Will-O-Wisp. Dodging once more, small orbs of purple fire surrounded Coughing. The poison Pokemon shot the fire attack forward with a spin, having them cancel out the shadow balls. Roxy gave Sabrina a smug grin, confident that the psychic gym leader was caught off guard. How do you like that, you stuck-up queen? Not so great now. Sabrina scoffed at her opponent's taunt and confidence. Just like an uncultured child to get overconfident over such a lucky maneuver. It's too bad that your luck is about to end, just like this battle. Kirlia, use Teleport and Psybeam. To Ash, Jacob, and Erica. The three trainers who were watching the battle, Ash and Jacob with a calculating gaze as they analyzed the battle, and the Soul Woman had a very confused face on. She knew Sabrina personally, they were pretty good friends actually, and she knew for the psychic-type specialist to be this angry, Roxy had to be either really irritating to her or said something pretty bad. She also knew that Roxy was definitely a really good trainer to be able to keep up with Sabrina, who has made a name for herself as one of the strongest Kanto gym leaders. She was even offered to move higher in the gym ranks but chose to stay where she was. Ash watched as Kirlia and Coughing dodged and counter one of another's moves, happy to see that both women were as strong as he remembered. I wonder what they are fighting about though, this is definitely not just a simple battle, Ash thought as he crossed his arms. The insults and taunts show that quite easily. I should probably step in before someone says something that they will regret later. Before Ash could do so though, one of Sabrina Pokeballs opened up and a Gengar appeared in a flash of white. Everyone paused as they watched the ghost poison type look around before his eyes locked onto Ash and yell out in joy. Ash! Gengar flew towards Ash in blurring speeds, hugging the young champion in joy. Ash looked at the Gengar in confusion for a second before his eyes widened and a smile made its way on his face. Haunter, is that you? The Gengar nodded happily, causing Ash to hug the floating Pokémon while laughing in joy. Well, look at you. You're a Gengar now, wow. It's so great to see you. Jacob looked at Ash, surprised that Ash either knew or once owned the Gengar in front of them. He battled the Gengar before when he last met Sabrina. It was definitely tough. It wasn't because it was stronger than his Pokémon, in power his Pokémon had it beat, it was just extremely agile and tricky. Hitting it was a huge challenge. Erica was not too surprised since Sabrina had mentioned that Haunter was left with her by someone else. It decided to join her team later on after playing and joking with her. The only thing that she didn't know was that Ash was the original trainer. The two battling trainers stopped as they watched Ash and Gengar hug and laugh. They were both confused, Sabrina especially, at how excited the shadow Pokémon was to see this unknown person. Gengar, while friendly to even strangers, isn't the type to joyfully hug random people. Gengar had to have known this man on a personal level for this reaction to happen, and only two people fit that bill. My father, who is watching this tournament back at the gym, and Ash, Sabrina thought as her eyes widened in realization. Ash, Sabrina whispered in shock, staring at the laughing trainer. Roxy heard the whisper and her eyes too widened in shock. She had been searching for Ash for a long while now. Whenever she went on tour with her band, especially to Kanto, she kept her eyes out for him. She was not the type that dwelled on things too long, so she had no trouble figuring out nor admitting that she gained a crush on Ash. After they parted, she get him off her mind, even if she played her bass guitar loudly. His attitude, his guts, his perseverance, his battle skills, and even his cocky smirk, they just light the fire in her stomach and soul. Shaking her head from her thoughts, the Poison Gym leader called out to her crush. Ash, hey! The Unova gym leader waved at him wildly. Ash stopped talking with Gengar and grinned at Roxy. Hey Roxy, it's good to see you again, Ash replied as he returned the wave. Yeah, it's good to see you too, Roxy replied as she fought back the blush that threatened her freckled face. How have you been? I haven't seen you since our battle in Unova. I know, Ash replied. We have a lot to catch up on when we get the chance. Roxy chuckled as she nodded at him. Turning his head to Sabrina, Ash gave her a warm smile too. It's good to see you again too, Sabrina. Sabrina gave the young champion a small smile, glad to see the man she held a form of affection. It's a pleasure to see you too, Ash. I'm glad you are all well and hope we can get together when we both have more time to do so. The young psychic blushed at the double meaning behind her words, hoping her crush friend will say yes. Ash nodded happily, not even noticing the double meaning. I would love that, it's been while since we talked as well. Plus I would love to see how things have been for you and Gengar here. Sabrina smiled happily at his acceptance, not noticing Roxy giving her a dirty look. She better stay away from my man. The white-haired girl raged mentally. Kirlia and Kafing just stood in their positions, watching how everything unfolded. Kirlia didn't know Ash so had no idea what was going on while Coughing chuckled at his trainer, knowing of her crush on the male trainer. Have you met Miss Know-It-All here, Ash? Roxy asked, both curious and annoyed by how close they seemed to be. Of all people, why did Ash have to get along with Sabrina? Before Ash could reply, Sabrina beat him to it. We met years ago, where he battled my gym and got his Marsh badge. He even saved me due to some regrettable circumstances that you don't need to know. What I would like to know is, how does he know a degenerate child like you? The fact that Sabrina said this in a monotone way seemed to annoy Roxy, as her eyebrow twitched. The fact she insulted her with big words and called her a child only made her angrier. I told you already, you damn robot, I'm not a kid. The Poison Gym leader yelled in anger. Coughing, let's get ready to show this machine its place by turning up the volume in our battle. Coughing cried out as he quickly flew in front of Roxy, ready to continue its match. How impudent for you to still think your poison can match my psychic Pokemon, Sabrina replied as her eyebrow twitched in irritation. But if you wish to be put in your place, then we will gladly show it to you. Kirlia, get ready to put down this loud brute. Kirlia backflipped agilely until she landed in front of her trainer, crying out in determination for her victory. Shadow Ball, Euro Ball. The two powerful attacks collided as a bright light shone before an explosion took place, the smoke covering coughing. The three trainers on the sideline sweat dropped at the battle, Lucario sighing as the battle continued. Ash looked to the couple behind, a curious look on his face. What are they even fighting about? Jacob and Erica wanted to facepalm at the denseness of the young champion, not believing that he couldn't tell they were fighting over him right now. Erica looked at Jacob, questioning him with her eyes. Jacob shrugged at Ash's questioning, believing it wasn't his place to tell him. I have no idea, Ash, could be something before we got here. What do you think, Erica? Erica shook her head, deciding to go along with it since she knew Jacob was lying. To be honest, I have no clue. I've known Sabrina for years and I know she is not easily angered. She's also not easy to get along with sometimes too because she is pretty blunt with her words, so it could be anything. Really, I don't know how you can be so dense, Ash. Lucario looked at the two humans and his master, and had to fight the urge to chuckle. He knew what Jacob and Erica were thinking and he agreed with them. Master is a genius on the battlefield and on how to interact with Pokemon of all kinds. Outside of it, he's still pretty smart, even if some things elude him. When it comes to things like love and romance, Ash is pretty clueless. I mean, it took him forever to realize Alex and Suzaku liked each other, when it was obvious to everyone else. Ash looked back to the battle in time to watch Coughing slam into Kirlia with tackle, who recovered enough to slam a surprise shadow ball into the poison type. As the two shook off the pain, Ash felt he should stop this battle, since he could tell it was more of a grudge match than anything else. Before Ash could do anything, a fast-moving shadow ball, which was dodged by Coughing, rushed towards Ash. Time seemed to slow down as the ghost-type move was in reach, causing an explosion that covered Ash in thick smoke. This caused Coughing and Kirlia to pause in both worry and guilt, not meaning for the attack to hit anyone else except each other. Now they might have harmed their respective trainers' crush unintentionally. Sabrina and Roxy froze in shock and panic as they stared fearfully at the slowly dissipating smoke that hid the boy that stole their heart from view. They both wanted to scream out and run to him, but they found they could not. Their panic caused their bodies to refuse any orders given other than breathe and stare. The only ones not panicking were Lucario, Jacob, and Erica. Jacob and Erica weren't worried since Lucario wasn't, knowing he would have acted if Ash was in any real danger. Lucario just stood and looked to the two panicking Pokemon, eyes full of pity. I'm sorry for you, he said mentally, knowing that they are screwed. When the smoke cleared finally, Jacob and Erica finally saw why Lucario was both not worried and looking at Coughing and Kirlia with pity. In front of an unscathed Ash, stood a very angry Glacon, who was glaring at the two Pokemon on the battlefield. Jacob paled at seeing the growling Glacon, due to witnessing how protective the ice type was of Ash. And those poor Pokemon have just angered her, he thought as he too felt pity for them. Sabrina and Roxy wanted to breathe a sigh of relief, seeing that Ash was okay, but that glare from Glacon made them hold their breath instead. They felt like they should return their Pokemon and run as fast as they could. How dare you try to harm Ash? Glacon yelled out in complete fury. Her voice was the opposite of her type, burning with utter rage. Her eyes seemed to glow with her anger as her glare intensified at the now terrified Pokemon. I will make sure that you pay. Before Ash could attempt to stop her, Glacon took off in a blue blur of speed. In a second, Glacon was next to Coughing and slammed an iron tail into the poison which caused the purple Pokemon to hit the ground hard. The moment Glaceon's feet touched the ground, which seemed to go in slow motion for the others, she vanished once more. Kirlia looked around in a panic, unable to locate where Glacon was. Next thing she knew was a pain in her leg that made her cry out in pain. Looking down, she found Glacon had its teeth clamped tightly around her right leg, the glare from the ice type piercing sharply into her frightened gaze. With a powerful tug, Glacon lifted Kirlia off her feet and sent her sailing through the air, crashing into a slowly rising Coughing. The two Pokemon stumbled into a groaning heap, Kirlia ending up under Coughing. Glacon then fired a quick blizzard, ready to knock out the two Pokemon that tried to hurt her master friend. Ash stood there and sighed, knowing something like this was going to happen. Stop the blizzard with your Bone Rush, Lucario, Ash commanded mentally to his aura Pokemon, who took off in a blue blur. Lucario appeared in front of the two injured Pokemon and smashed the sides of his fists together. Pulling them apart, a glowing blue staff made of aura formed in between. With a mighty roar, Lucario spun the staff in front of him, making it barely visible except for a blue circle that seemed to get wider, as Lucario spun faster. The powerful Ice-type move slammed into the makeshift Bone Rush shield, breaking away from its targets due to being unable to get past the shield. As the fighting, Steel-type Pokemon blocked the blizzard, everyone looked on in complete shock. First Glacon easily crushed two high-level Pokemon with incredible speed, then Lucario moves even faster while blocking a very powerful Ice-type attack. Sabrina and Roxy were shocked stiff by the two Pokemon owned by their crush. Glacon and Lucario were both obviously strong and extremely skilled by their actions. They did not want to be on the receiving end of any of the attacks from the two Pokemon. Jacob's fist tightened, not in frustration, but in excitement. He knows Ash is strong and really wanted to test how strong they really were. He especially wanted to take on Lucario due to him being Ash's aura partner. With a mighty swing of his aura staff, Lucario cancelled out the blizzard completely. Glacon was not pleased that her righteous fury was stopped by her ally and friend. Lucario, why did you stop me? She yelled at the aura Pokemon. They deserve it for almost hurting Ash. In her eyes, anyone that hurts Ash needs to be punished. It's why she hasn't approached Delia at all. The mother hurt her trainer and should be nowhere near him because of it. She would have done something about it if Ash wasn't the one that let her stay. Lucario shook his head at her words, knowing she was going to say that. The aura Pokemon looked to his trainer and nodded, hoping he would step in, more like telling him to. Ash quickly stepped forward, gaining the ice type's attention. Glacon, thank you, the champion began as he smiled at her. He stopped in front of the evolution and pet her head, causing her to smile in pure delight and rub her head into his touch. The once threatening and enraged Glacon has now become a docile and happy Glacon with a single touch. Thank you so much for not only protecting me, but caring about me so much, he continued before his smile dropped slightly. At the same time, they didn't mean it, Glacon. The attack went astray and came into my direction, it wasn't their intention for me to be hurt. But Ash! Glacon yelled out. They still did it and you could have been hurt because of it. Ash shook his head, chuckling slightly at her stubbornness. That's true, but they didn't mean to, Ash replied. Their intentions were far different from what actually happened. They shouldn't be hated since they never wanted to hurt me and they feel bad about it. Ash's words began to slow as his mind began to race. He remembered how his mother told him about her true intentions, that she never meant to hurt him. She only wanted to help him like a mother should and even feels terrible for what happened. Shaking his head to get rid of the thoughts, focusing back on a concerned Glacon. Glacon, please just let this go, Ash said as he continued rubbing her head to calm her. He didn't want Glacon to worry about him and then get everyone else to worry too. Glacon, her body warm from his touch, reluctantly nodded her head in acceptance. Fine Ash, only for you, she replied before her eyes narrowed at the two Pokemon behind Lucario. But, I will keep my eyes on them. Ash nodded, knowing that's the best he could get out of her right now. Standing up, Ash took out two citrus berries and walked to the two downed Pokemon. When he was in front of them, he knelt down and offered them the berries with a warm smile. Coughing, knowing Ash already, ate the citrus berry with a smile and a quick, thanks. Kirlia, on the other hand, had no idea who Ash was and didn't trust him. Kirlia looked at Coughing, looking for any signs of foul play, only to see the poison-type's wounds heal and for him to float up happily. Ash smiled warmly, feeling her surprise and distrust. You have nothing to fear, Kirlia, Ash said soothingly, causing the psychic fairy to become less tense, unknowingly. I'm not going to hurt you, I just wanted to help you. This berry will help you feel a whole lot better, just like Coughing here. The said poison type floated down with a smile on his face as he encouraged the injured Kirlia to trust Ash. Kirlia looked at the berry for a few more moments, debating whether to trust them or just endure the pain. Giving one final look to the grinning Coughing, Kirlia made her decision. Okay, She whispered softly as she gently grabbed the citrus berry and began to eat it slowly at first before almost devouring it completely, yet somehow maintaining a hint of elegance. Ash chuckled as he watched Kirlia's wounds began to disappear. Hearing his light chuckle, Kirlia blushed embarrassed as she looked down. Thank you, she said shyly, before feeling a warm hand rub her head gently. Looking up, she saw his warm smile brighten. You're welcome, Kirlia, Ash replied as he stood up. I'm just glad that you're feeling better. Using his aura to discreetly feel out any leftover injuries, he was relieved they were all taken care of. Standing up, Ash looked to the happy yet confused trainers, Sabrina and Roxy. I'm sorry for my Glaceon's actions, she has been very protective of me ever since I found her. I hope you're not too mad, but I understand if you are. Sabrina and Roxy both shook their heads, not mad at all. After all, if it wasn't for Glacon, then Ash could have been seriously hurt. Any loyal Pokemon would have been furious by such a thing. That's good, Ash sighed relieved. Actually, me and my friends were going to get something to eat. Would you two like to join us? Yeah, I'd be happy to, Roxy and Sabrina replied simultaneously before quickly glaring at each other. Looking back, Sabrina tried to address the issue. Ash, you may want to rethink your invitation to this uncouth child. Her horrible manners would probably just spoil your meal. Roxy glared harder as a tick mark formed on her forehead again. Listen, you damn robot, Roxy yelled. Just because you're so anti-fun doesn't mean you should ruin it for everyone else. Also, for the last time, I'm not a damn child. Oh really, with the way you act it would make it hard to tell, Sabrina countered while crossing her arms. Roxy was about to explode before she felt a calming and soothing sensation washed over her. This caused Roxy's anger to vanish, feeling at peace with the warmth she was feeling. If she cared to look, she would have noticed that Sabrina was feeling the same effect she was. Ash stood as he watched the two trainers relax due to feeling his aura that he transmitted to them, his attempt to stop their argument. Why are they even fighting? He wondered. Let's not fight, you two, Ash said, gaining their attention. Our Pokemon have been through very tough battles and deserve to be in an environment where they can relax. Bickering is only going to make them tense. Ash's words caused Sabrina and Roxy to think and realize that he had a point. Their Pokemon should be allowed to relax, not to be on guard because of them. I apologize, Kirlia, Sabrina apologized to her psychic Pokemon. I was being selfish in my endeavors and forgot about your feelings. I hope you can forgive me. Kirlia smiled at her trainer and waved off her apology as she gently hugged her. It's quite all right, my lady, Kirlia elegantly replied. It's my duty to help make you happy. When you're happy, then I am too. Same here, coughing, Roxy said to her Pokemon. I let my emotions rock out so loudly that I totally ignored how you may feel. Please forgive me. Coughing circled Roxy happily, not at all upset with her. Not a problem, Roxy. Coughing replied. As the great rockers that we are, we have to give it our all at everything we do. I'll always have more in my tank for another round. He quickly snuggled into Roxy's chest, causing her to chuckle and hold him closer. Ash gave a small smile at the bond between the two trainers and their respective Pokemon. It made him think of the bond he has with each of his Pokemon. Jacob smirked at how Ash handled the entire situation, relieved that he didn't need to step in, having trusted Ash to be able to take care of it. He just knew that calming an angry Roxy could lead to a headache. Can we go eat now? Erica called out to the three trainers, gaining their attention. I'm actually very hungry and we have a lot to talk about. Ash nodded, a slightly more serious look crossing his face. Facing back to Sabrina and Roxy, Ash pointed his thumb back to the Pokemon Center. Let's go get some food, ladies, or Erica is going to get angry. Jacob chuckled at his girlfriend's pout that she gave Ash, finding it adorable. Taking hold of her hand, which got him a loving smile from her, he turned to Ash. Let's get our game plan set up. Pokemon Ranger Base, Kanto. Entering a small town deep within a forested area is located a Pokemon Ranger recruitment base. Here, upcoming protectors of the Pokemon world will come to sign up for training to become rangers and help stop poaching and evil organizations. Normally the town is bustling with activity due to most of the town being related to maintaining the ranger base in some way. Even finding wild Pokemon among the town was a very common sight. This time, none of the usual could be found around the town. The ground was either destroyed or scorched. The buildings were either on fire, barely standing, or destroyed altogether. Plant life was also on fire, upturned, or destroyed. The occasional unconscious person could be found either on the ground or among the wreckage that was once used to be a well-constructed building. Some wore the ranger uniform, signifying them as Pokemon Rangers. Others wore causal clothing, signifying them as civilians of the town. Among the calm chaos, several Pokemon were walking among the wreckage. Some were carrying the unconscious people while others were either cleaning up the rubble or putting out the flames. One such Pokemon was a slightly larger than average Absol, carrying an unconscious man who was laid out on its back. The Absol ran past other knocked-out Rangers and Pokemon, not giving any of them a second glance. Leaping over a pile of rubble, that two golems were pulling people from, Absol sped up. The dark type slowed down as he neared the biggest building in town, the Pokemon Ranger Training Station. The building, while looking better than the others, also looked destroyed. Parts of the building were chipped off, the left corner was no longer there. Shattered glass littered the floors, leaving the windows wide open. The front door was missing, allowing anything to enter. The pole that once proudly waved the base's flag was no longer standing and the flag nowhere to be found. As Absol slowed to a walking pace, 4 Pokemon made themselves known by blocking his path when he neared the entrance of the building. The 2 Pokemon that stood on the outside were a Dusclops and a Sneasel. The Dusclops kept an eye on the disaster Pokemon while Sneasel walked around Absol, inspecting him and the unconscious human on his back. When the dark, ice type was satisfied, she looked to Dusclops and nodded. The ghost type moved to the side as he spoke out. Absol is here with another one. Ranger, threat level is unknown. Looking to Absol, he pointed to the door. You may enter. Absol wordlessly entered the building before stopping in front of the other 2 Pokemon that guarded the entrance inside the building. These 2 Pokemon were a Sableye, on the left, and a Houndoom, on the right. The 2 Pokemon just stood and stared as Absol walked by, not even acknowledging the dark type's presence. The inside of the building was just as damaged with statues and pillars destroyed or toppled over. Broken pieces of the building and/or glass littered the floor. Water was everywhere along with scorch marks covering the walls and ceiling. Sticky webbing hung from the ceiling along with the lights, that were flickering on and off, that were barely still holding on. The doors that led to other rooms were off their hinges, some were embedded into the ruined walls. Absol walked to the left and towards a giant hole that was once blocked by 2 heavy metal doors. Absol paused and moved to the side as a slightly bigger than average Tyranitar walked out. Absol took notice that the Tyranitar's tail was also smaller than other Tyranitars but not because of a birth issue. By the looks of it, it looked like its tail had been cut off in some way. Also, the giant Pokemon's back was littered with bad scars. Most of the scars were deep cuts and some looked like they came from whips and blades. Turning his attention from the Tyranitar, Absol continued his way through the hole. After entering, the scenery seemed to change as now the place was filled with people. Some walked around with trays of food on carts and others were walking around with clipboards. Different Pokemon were running or floating around, following the ones with clipboards. Some looked to acknowledge his entrance, while others didn't even spare Absol a glance. Walking further into the room, Absol walked past a few more doors before making his way to an open one that had a Sceptile standing in front of it. Past the door was a staircase that led further down the building. After being looked over by the Sceptile, Absol made his way to the base floor. Making it to the bottom, there were activity and more noise were being made. Let us out. You can't do this. You won't get away with this. Stop this right now. Absol paid them little mind as he knew that the ones yelling were lucky to be alive, even if in unfavorable conditions. He walked into view of a prison room that had many different cells all lined up. This is where the Rangers held the poachers and criminals that they captured before handing them over to the police. The occasional Pokemon is held here until they get them to calm down since the bars were made to be very resilient to all kinds of Pokemon attacks. This time though, the cells did not hold criminals of any kind. There was no dangerous Pokemon behind the bars. No, these cells held the town's protectors and heroes. They held the friends of all wild Pokemon. The cells held the Pokemon Rangers of the recruitment base, both the experienced and the newbies. As the disaster Pokemon entered the room, a Claydol floated up to him with a man next to him. The man had spiky green hair that spiked to the left. He had an average build that showed he worked out, but nothing spectacular. He had orange-red eyes that held a gruff wisdom that shows that he has been through a lot or at least has seen much. The man looked to be in his mid-40s. He wore a long-sleeved red shirt with spirals around the arm sleeves. He had a ring on each finger and 2 earrings in each ear. He wore dark blue jeans and black sneakers. The man looked to Claydol and gave his command. Claydol, take this prisoner to cell 15, there should be enough room for him there. Claydol used Psychic to lift the unconscious man off Absol and take him to his now designated cell. The man turned to the dark type. Go back and continue to search for any survivors. I want to know stragglers. I'll report to the boss. Now go. Absol. The disaster Pokemon replied before running back up the stairs to continue his mission. As Absol left, the man put a finger to the communicator on his wrist. Boss, one of the Absols have brought in another ranger. So far, the collection is going well and there have been 0 resistance or incidences. Good work, Corey, a young woman's voice. Continue the mission assigned to you and bring in any more survivors, civilian or rangers. Yes ma'am, the now named Corey replied as a Machamp entered the room, carrying 2 more unconscious people. On top of the base stood a young girl who looked over the destroyed town. She had bright pink eyes that were slightly covered by her short blue hair. She wore her red vest that her Pokeballs were clipped to for easy calls. She wore gray jeans that were ripped at her ankles. She also wore pink and white running shoes. The young girl was Marcy and she had a wide smile on her face as she watched the Pokemon drag or carry the unconscious member of the town. I wonder how much longer until all of the survivors are rounded up. Huh. She looked up and noticed her Crobat hovering over a small section of the forest. The smile on her face dropped slightly and her eyes became sharper. Not on my watch, she whispered. She jumped over the railing and off the route, not at all worried that she was falling to her possible doom. As she fell, her smile returned at full force. You know what to do. She yelled out. Suddenly her belt glowed a bright white as it swirled off her waist and rushed towards the ground. The light grew and expanded until it reached almost 9 feet tall. When the light died down, a giant pink pillow had taken the place of her belt. The giant pillow softens her fall, allowing her to bounce off the top and twirl in the air before landing on her feet, completely unharmed. She held out her left arm to the giant pillow, a smile on her face. Use transform and become a bracelet. The pillow glowed brightly once more before it shrunk down and shot at her wrist. When the light died down, a pink bracelet now covered her left wrist. She looked at her new bracelet, a satisfied smile on her face. Excellent execution as always, ditto. She grabbed a Pokeball from her vest and tossed it up. Let's go Rapidash, we have a little Tepig to bring back to its pen. In a flash of light, Rapidash appeared. Rapidash began running forward, its trainer right by its side. Marcy grabbed the fire type and jumps on its back, neither one slowing down. With the blue-haired girl securely on its back, Rapidash sped up until was just a fiery blur to anything else around them. In the forest. I need to keep going, breathed out a man who leaned his right hand against a tree. The man was in his late 20s with an average height of 5 feet 6. He wore the Pokemon Ranger attire, but this one was different than the normal attire. The man wore a small red jacket that were torn at the sleeves. The edges were burned at the bottom, making it smaller than it used to be. The blue goggles he wore on his spiky brown hair was shattered. His dark blue undershirt was riddled with tears and holes and small dark blotches. The yellow scarf on his neck was also torn with pieces of thread showing. His green cargo pants were burned and barely hanging on. The legs of the pants were burnt up and barely able to cover his legs up to his knees. His running shoes, once red and green, were painted nearly black from scorch marks. Blood poured from the cuts and bruises that covered the man's body. His left eye was closed shut from the wounds he has sustained. He pushed himself off the tree and began running, a limp obvious in his steps. His instincts as an elite ranger screamed at him to jump to the side and thankfully he listened to it as a flamethrower passed where he was. Looking behind him, he found the culprit to be a strong Rapidash's. The fire type glared at him and was poised to strike again. Above Rapidash was a crowbat that was upside down on a branch and its wings folded. I'm going to guess that you're not going to just let me go, he said as he took a careful step back. You guessed correct, Mr. Ranger, came a feminine voice from above him. He looked up to find a young girl with blue hair, gazing down at him as she leaned against the tree. Hi there, my name's Marcy. What's yours, Mr. Ranger? Her head tilted slightly to the left in curiosity. My name's Dennis, the now named Dennis replied warily. He's no fool, this girl wasn't as innocent as she appeared. That Rapidash was most definitely hers and she had no issues with trying to take him out with that attack. Add to the fact that he felt a terrified shiver down his spine whenever she smiled. The fact that she could smile so brightly while a town was being destroyed not far from them, really unnerved him. That is a nice name, Mr. Dennis, Marcy replied joyfully. If you don't mind, Mr. Dennis, let's make things easy for both of us. You just turn around and come back with us to the town and you won't be caused any more harm. Refuse, well, suddenly her happy visage vanished and a cold one took its place. Her smile becoming more of a promise of pain than joy. I don't recommend that you do that. Dennis, while sweating from the underlined threat in her tone, darted his eyes all around to find a way to escape. No wild Pokemon were nearby so he couldn't call for their help. Due to the Crobat, she had a complete bird's-eye view of his location. With Rapidash, outrunning her will be even more difficult. He had to be careful on how he handled each moment or else he is done for. My partner is secured in her Pokeball, Dennis thought as he kept his eyes peeled. The problem is that Pichu is a support Pokemon, not a battler. I'm severely limited here. Jumping down from the tree, Marcy narrowed her eyes dangerously at Dennis. So, what is it going to be, Dennis? Are you going to come quietly? Raising his left leg to seemingly follow Marcy, Dennis quickly turned the opposite direction and ran off at full speed. I can't give up. I need to get help. Marcy sighed as she watched him before a smirk grew on her face. How predictable, she stated as she watched him run. Rapidash, Crobat, go hunt. Rapidash's cried before taking off in a fiery blur once more. Crobat whipped open his wings and released his grip on the tree. Taking off, Crobat flew high up in astounding speeds. Dennis kept running, refusing to look back no matter what. He kept running even though his aching body protested it. He was so tired that he felt like his lungs were set aflame. He barely heard the stomping hooves of the quickly approaching Rapidash. The tired ranger stayed under the tree branches as best as he could to keep hidden from Crobat. The shadows of each branch crept of his body as he moved as best he could, his bones creaking with each step. The ace ranger quickly made a hard left as he ran off, just as a flamethrower flew past him. He picked up his pace as he ran faster, doing his best to gain distance from the pursuing Pokemon. He had to stop instantly and roll back as an air cutter sliced the ground in front of him. He also had to roll away as another flamethrower shot past him. Breathing heavily, he looked as Rapidash stomped up and Crobat hovered next to it. With no wild Pokemon nearby, no chance of escape, and too tired to run, he was completely out of options. His eyes widened as Crobat flew in front of the Rapidash as a powerful torrent of water shot past him and towards the two Pokemon. The poisoned, flying Pokemon made a blue bubble, signifying the use of Protect, that easily repelled the water attack. Hey, are you alright? A female voice called out from behind Dennis, causing him to look back towards his savior. His savior was a slightly pudgy girl wearing a yellow dress that reached her ankles. She stood out at about 4 feet 8, so she wasn't what you would call tall. She had long blue hair that was tied into a ponytail that reached down to her shoulder blades. She had green sunglasses that were shaped like hearts on her head. She also wore yellow rain boots, which was strange since it has been sunny for 2 weeks. Next to her was a Golduck, most likely the one that shot the water attack earlier. The girl glared at the two Pokemon angrily. Ganging up on an injured person is not fair. So, allow me and Golduck to even the playing field. Let's go Golduck. Right. Golduck yelled out as he stood in front of his trainer and the injured man. The girl turned back to Dennis. Don't worry, sir. Me and Golduck are here to help you and stop them. She looked back to the other Pokemon, so they don't get the drop on them. Before Dennis could get up and thank her, a chuckle caught him by surprise. Once more, he looked up to find Marcy watching them from the branch of a tree. Looks like more players have joined our little game of Persian and Pikachu, Marcy smiled in joy. I think you are going to regret helping him because I now can't let you leave freely as my boss would be very angry with me if I do. So, I'll offer you the same thing I offered Mr. Dennis behind you. She hopped over the two trainers and landed behind them, her eyes never leaving them. Give up and things will be less painful for you. Continue on and you will regret your choice. Here is my answer, the girl replied as she pointed at Marcy's Pokemon. Golduck, use Water Pulse. Golduck quickly gathered an orb of water between its hands before shooting it at Rapidash and Crobat. Marcy didn't even look worried as her smile never dropped, though her eyes gained a sharpness that could cut metal. Air Slash. Crobat quickly flapped its forewings as the condensed slashes rushed forward and easily sliced through the water-type attack without any form of resistance. Golduck, not needing to be told, dove out of the path of the quickly approaching Air Slash. It was a good thing it did as the attack continued to slice through several trees before dissipating. This left both the girl and her Golduck shocked at the power that the poison flying Pokemon possessed. Before I show you just how bad of a mistake you made, Marcy began as her smile became more demented and the happy light had dimmed until it became a cruel gleam. What's the name of our new prey that could not help but decide to get itself trapped in the Pyroar's den? My name, the young trainer stammered in fear. It's Harley. Harley Carwile. She didn't know why, but the feeling Marcy gave off filled her with fear. Good, now I know what to call you should you impress me, Marcy stated. Rapidash, sit this one out. Crobat, let's make this quick yet fun. Go, use your wing attack. Rapidash nodded as it stood to the side and watched Dennis while the poison flying type rushed forward with high speeds. Golduck, quickly use your Scald. Then follow it up with your Psychic. Harley countered. She was so focused, she didn't take note of Marcy's growing grin. Crobat easily cut through the boiling water without any sign of being remotely bothered by it. He also hid his body among the trees and branches before Golduck's psychic attack could hone in on him. Now she will try a widespread water attack to hold us back. Most likely it will end up being Water Pulse after slamming it on the ground, Marcy analyzed mentally. So, countering will be as simple as overpowering, piercing moves. Golduck, use Water Pulse and slam it onto the ground. Keep them away from you. Harley yelled out in worry. Too easy, Marcy thought bored. Crobat, pierce through with Aerial Ace. The bat Pokemon quickly covered itself in its aura and easily broke through the wall of water set up by Golduck. Crobat slammed into the water type, causing him to yell out from the pain. Due to Golduck's physique, he will recover. From the angle, he will most likely roll to the right. Due to how slow it seems, it won't react in time. Crobat, Air Slash to Golduck's right. Crobat followed her orders with extreme precision as he released the flying-type attack with a flap of its wings. Just as Marcy thought, Golduck recovered with a roll to its right. Only to land in the path of the incoming Air Slash and get sent sailing back. The water type slammed into a tree with a sickening thud, as it cried in agony. It won't be enough to take it out as it's obviously the stubborn type, though the hits will make it become sluggish, Marcy though as she watched Golduck get up. Golduck will also get desperate along with its trainer so she will try to switch to close range due to how much distance has obviously failed her. An attack like Furry Swipes will be most likely on the way since I doubt it still knows Scratch. Crobat, when I say, use Wing Attack. The bat Pokemon nodded as he hovered in place. Great job Golduck, Harley cheered, though you could still easily hear the worry in her tone. Charge in at full speed and use Furry Swipes. Understood. The water Pokemon yelled as he ran at the hovering flying, poison Pokemon, a limp in his steps. Marcy closed her eyes as she sighed in boredom. Crobat, move left, then up. Follow it up with another dodge downward and use Wing Attack to send it back, the blue-haired girl commanded with no care. After that, use Venoshock. Crobat quickly followed in perfect sequence as he dodged all the swipes and slammed into Golduck with its glowing wings. Before Golduck could recover, the water type was hit with the poisonous green gunk that caused him to lose footing and fall back. Rapidash shook its head as he watched the completely one-sided battle while keeping its eyes on Dennis and Harley, the two fools that dared to defy its trainer. His trainer deserved the world for what she had been through and what was taken from her, and he will make that happen. Even if everything else needed to be broken first. Dennis watched in fascinated horror as he saw Crobat take complete control of the battle since the beginning. No matter what they tried, Marcy seemed to already have a counter in place. It's like she already knows what they are going to do and act before they even do it. Can she see the future or something? Harley was beyond worried, not having any clue of what she could do. Marcy was ready to counter her every move and was able to overpower her Golduck with the most minimum of effort. All she wanted was to be a famous Pokémon fashion designer. She was just trying to help a person in need, not expecting any of this. How is she able to know just where and how my Pokémon are going to move? Can she see the future? Marcy finished her thought happily, shocking the young trainer. Harley's eyes widened when she realized that Marcy said exactly what was on her mind. Can she read? She began to mentally panic before being interrupted again by Marcy. My thoughts. But how? The blue-haired trainer finished for her again with fake worry. Marcy smirked as she watched Harley being to panic even more, already knowing that she would. And this is checkmate, Marcy thought. Crobat, aerial ace. Then use air slash behind Mr. Dennis. Dennis and Harley's eyes widened at the command, but before either could act, Crobat rammed into Golduck which sent it flying towards Rapidash and unleashed the commanded air slash attack. The resulting explosion caused Dennis and Harley to fall forward on their faces. Crobat quickly hovered over the two down trainers, ready to strike in case they tried to do anything. Marcy looked to Rapidash that held down the unconscious Golduck. The 16-year-old girl sideboard as she quickly walked to the two down trainers. Well, it looks like this game is over without any form of a contest, she said as she stopped in front of the two trainers. Crouching down, she pets Dennis on the head like she was consoling a sad child. If you had just cooperated when I asked you to, then there would have been no need to hurt you like this. You chose to run and to cause yourself more pain than necessary. She turned her attention to Harley, a sad smile on her face. And if you only minded your own business, then you would have been left alone for the most part. You put yourself in the wrong place at the worst time. To make it worst, you tried to play the big hero in a world where no such thing exists. It's just people thinking they are bigger than they really are. For your heroics, you got yourself hurt along with your Pokémon. To make matters worse, your battle was pitiful and left me unimpressed, which means that I have absolutely no use for you. What happens to you now, will be left to fate. Fate, something that does not care for heroism, villainism, love, friendship, age, rich, or even poor. Your life is now in the hands of one of the coldest hands possible, only tied with death itself. Her bracelet glowed brightly as it shot from her wrist and wrapped around the trainers, turning into pink rope that tightly bound the two trainers that were slowly losing consciousness. Why? Why would you do such a thing? What are you up to? What are you trying to accomplish here? Harley yelled out in frustration as Dennis finally lost conscious. My purpose. Marcy responded, tilting her head to the side that would have been cute in any other situation. My purpose is to do something very simple, to get back the chances that were ripped away from me at a young age. To live the life that was denied by all the villains and evil in this world, fate included. What do you mean by that? Harley asked, confused by her words. She was doing her best to fight off the closing of her eyes. What I mean is, Marcy began as she gripped the back of Harley's head and glared, the smile on her face forgotten and a look of anger in its place. Her eyes no longer held the glint of joy, but raging like the seas during a storm. I am going to be more than some mere hero, I am going to be a savior. I will save this world from the evil that plagues it and causes it so much harm by destroying the bonds that lead us to such actions. The actions that will always lead to pain and greed. The binds of human nature. I will give all that lost so much due to evil and return it to us all. She then slammed the beaten trainer's head into her raising knee, knocking Harley completely unconscious. The rope that held the now unconscious duo glowed once more as it unwrapped itself from them and landed next to the bodies. As the form changed and the light died down, a smiling Ditto took its place. Marcy smiled at her Ditto as it jumped into her arms and snuggled into her. Great job, buddy. Now that all our loose ends are tied up, it's time to finish up the roundup. She looked up at her Crobat, who hovered nearby. Go back to the town and bring someone to carry these two back to the base so we can place them into cells. Crobat nodded at her order as he flew off. Marcy looked back to the downed people, specifically Harley. I'm sorry, but I won't stop here. Just know, peace will come soon and this time no evil will be around to end it. It will be a perfect world. A beautiful world.